Good evening, Clashers and Clashettes, coming to you live here from NGE Studios in beautiful Burbank, California. This is the official Supercell Clash Royale North American Opens. Representing Frozen Peak, I'm Christian.
And reppin' Builders Workshop, I'm Ella.
That is right, and tonight we are bringing you even more of the most amazing Clash Royale duels your brains will ever barely comprehend. Yeah, they're amazing. They're absolutely fantastic.
They're so great. And over the next 4 weeks, over 500,000 of you guys back at home will be playing in our open qualifiers, which happened all day today.
Yep.
And you will be making it, if you're good enough. Tonight, the Coronation Days. And from the Coronation Days, 16 of our competitors, 3 of which you will see over there on that wall, are going on to the arena battles, and 8 of them will move on to the crown duels. And finally, one lucky and very talented, smart, awesome winner will take home $15,000 from a $100,000 prize pool and get a super awesome trip to the Supercell headquarters.
That's right. That's what all these players are playing for, and already over 100,000 of you guys at home have participated so far in our open qualifiers to make it to Coronation Days like this, where first place we taking home $2,000, second place $500, third and fourth place taking $300 each, and finally fifth through eighth $100. Again, these guys are playing, making it here. They're already the cream of the crop,
so
the top
good.
of the top. These are the best players right now in Clash Royale. Already, we've had Ender, Eric, and Flash be 3 of our winners tonight. We are looking for a 4th, but before we take a look at who the top 8 who made it to today are, let's quickly go over the rules here of Clash Royale North American Open. We run the standard tournament cap with the double deck format. Each player will submit 2 unique decks to us, each unique deck having to be at least 4 cards different. And to move on, it's very simple. Ella, you just gotta beat your opponent with both of your decks before they beat you with theirs, and boom, you're one step closer to the top. Now, let's take a look at the back wall and see who our top 8 are. Up first, we have Backstab versus Gray.
Oh, snap. And then we have T-Bone versus Naruto Uzumaki.
That's right. Third is going to be Santi versus Brian RT.
And then we have Mango versus Marcel P, familiar name.
Yeah, this guy's already made it 3 times. We'll talk about him over at the couch, but again, making it is an amazing feat in and of itself. So sit back, relax, and get ready to watch the greatest Clash Royale duels you have ever seen. Now, speaking of the couch, Ella, we're not here alone.
We couldn't do this
alone. We could not do it alone. We are making our way to the top. We have 2 gentlemen who are already at the top, so let's go over and meet them. Joining me on the red couch, creator and host of the Super Magical Cup, it is Rainy, the one and only.
Hey, buddy.
Good to see you. Can't wait for your artistic skills tonight.
Yes. And over here we have impressionist extraordinaire.
Ooh, that's right.
From him. We actually have some requests tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
I did see a few on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to
keep sending them.
Yeah, keep sending them to us. It makes the end of the day look so
At some point, I will be the dancing monkey on the show. By then, we got 13 more broadcasts.
We're fine. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
All right.
What were these requests? I didn't see them. I'm interested now.
One was Prince.
Sure.
Yeah, that's gonna come at some
Yeah,
point.
we might even eventually be having maybe a horse to ride on. We're not, you know, maybe a little teaser. But
It's way easier to do that then.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We won't get into that too much. All right, guys, let's talk about what happened last broadcast. Flash, our first non-E winner.
Oh, you're right. We're moving through.
We dropped the letter grade.
Done with
Guys,
the E's.
I'm nervous for myself now. I don't know if there's room for
Oh,
another
yeah.
in there.
You might be able to bring it back. There might be some more E's. But let's quickly talk about what we kind of saw, the styles of deck we saw played. We still had some expos, so some expos still in, but not nearly as much as the first broadcast.
Yeah, that's actually one of the most fun things in competitive games is watching metagames evolve. The very first broadcast, we saw literally all Expo, right? And from then, it's gone on and slowly sort of drifted away as people are consistently bringing anti-Expo decks.
Yeah.
And in fact,
Whoa!
today,
I was expecting.
yeah, I feel comfortable saying that today is the day that Expo died. The fewest Expos in the top 8 of any of our Coronation days so
RIP
far.
Expo.
Wow, meta is changing. Meta's changing indeed. All right, so let's take a look at who we have our top 8. First of all, Marcel P is back again. So not only just making it to these top 8s is crazy, he's made it now 3 times. This is his 3rd time in the top 8 out of 4 broadcasts. So do you think that tonight is his best shot? Do you think he's ready to conquer all the foes?
I'm getting worried for him.
Really?
I think that when you get here so many times, you need to make sure that you figure out what's wrong so that you can actually close it out. I think it's... Okay, don't get me wrong. Making it here is actually really, really difficult, and the fact that Marcel P has done it 3 times is amazing. But only the winner gets the ticket to go to the arena battles. And I've seen this so many times, and all the times I've casted Clash Royale competitively, there are players out there that will make it to the top 8s multiple times, insane amounts of times, but never actually take the win. And that's concerning.
All right, well, we'll see if Marcel P is that guy. Any other names that are in today? I know Naruto is a kind of a big name in the community. Who else?
I think, actually, to your point about Marcel P having to learn what he's got to change in order to get there, adaptation is key, and I think he's doing it. Marcel P has brought Expo decks. In fact, when he made the finals, he had 2 Expo decks. Tonight, 0 Expos out of him to see his decks later.
Scrapping it.
He's definitely learning from his mistakes and updating.
Okay.
But the players that I'm keeping an eye on are actually both in the first match.
Oh.
We've got Backstab X against Gray. Both
That sounds dangerous.
Yes,
was that yes for Gray or for Backstab?
Yes, for Gray.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Rainey. So we've actually seen this matchup before in the Super Magical Cup, and,
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Rainey and I have actually been opposite sides. Gray is one of the most prominent Goblin Barrel players, and we saw
Right.
in yesterday's show.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Isopo went very deep into it and went to the finals with a Goblin Barrel deck. We see a very similar deck here out of Gray, but Backstab. My man Backstab is
already
here, slaying Expos left and right with double Royal Giant tonight.
Oh, okay.
Very good.
Well, cool. We'll get to see that very soon. But my favorite part of the night, haikus,
Oh,
baby.
yeah.
I'm so
Keep
excited.
sending
Great.
those our way to #ClashNAOpen. Choose who you want to read them.
Yeah.
They're going to be awesome.
Send
them.
Like
Send
Ryan
them
just said,
all.
it's 575,
Yes.
and that's syllables. Again, I keep forgetting. I think
super
it's words.
easy.
Yeah, super easy.
True
yeah.
story.
Who can mess that up?
The first time we did a rehearsal,
Yeah.
Christian did it. He's like, I've got a haiku, I wrote one, and proceeded to say 5 words, 7 words, 5 words. And we're all
Yeah.
looking at him like, do you know what a haiku
I was
is?
so proud.
Don't pull a Christian.
I was smiling until I looked at their faces, and then I realized I had done something horribly wrong. All right, let's take a look at
Horribly wrong.
our first broadcast tonight, Backstab versus Gray. So you are on the side of Backstab.
Absolutely.
You're on the side of Gray.
My heart is with Gray. My mind is with Backstab.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
You've got some
wow,
internal battles
yeah.
going on.
Yeah, I think Backstab is actually such a good player. We haven't had the opportunity to see him too much, but every time I see Backstab, I'm always very impressed. I think that he has a good head on his shoulders for kind of playing Clash Royale at a very high level.
Okay.
But my heart goes to Gray because he has done some of the sickest Goblin Barrel plays I've ever seen.
Does he use the mind games?
Yeah, that's,
yeah.
Mind games.
I'm pretty sure it was Gray's mind games that caused Rainey to draw pictures and explain it. Absolutely.
Okay, let us know at home who you think is going to take it, Gray or Backstab.
All right. In the round of 8, it looks like Gray is going to open with Princess at the top. Typically a very good move. Princess has been having a rough time these last few days just because of the existence of log, but with Goblin Barrel, okay, and arrows. Princess is having a hard time.
The importance of a furnace early on is not so much that furnace is going to do a tremendous amount of damage, but it forces your opponent to react to it. It's going to slowly sit there and chip away damage unless you react, and that's why it's such a good tempo card.
Yeah, I think that using the miner to tank for the skeleton army is very smart. It actually forced a relatively strong response from Backstab, so I don't think Gray will be feeling too badly about how that played out, but he does need to defend against the Musketeer. I think he does so fine.
Ooh, I like that play there. The Ice Golem is tanking for the tower, allowing that Goblin Barrel to be incredibly deadly. But Backstab, as we saw yesterday, is running both log and arrows, a new double spell combination that I don't think we've ever really seen in the history of Clash Royale, but the popularity of Skeleton Army, Goblin Barrel, Guards is really bringing that back.
Skeleton Army has, in very many ways, increased the amount of Zap Bait decks, and as a result, many more players are running multiple spells to make sure that they don't fall prey to the fact that they need more than one splash card to erase these cheap, kind of chumpy unit drops.
I love that combination there of Royal Giant backed up by a Furnace. Ooh. I mean, it's, whoa, here comes the Goblin Barrel in.
Mind game!
Oh, we got Dude,
Oh my
wow.
God.
And look at the damage being done right now, and with the log out of his hand.
Oh, man, and you can't take out the princess. Yes, great. Yes, yes.
So I love the Royal Giant Furnace combination because the Fire Spirits are able to blow up on little things like Goblins, Skeleton Army, the sort of stuff that you might throw down quickly to stop a Royal Giant. We'll see if he can punch through another 900-ish damage to take that tower down. Currently, though, Gray finds himself in control of the game.
Yeah, I think this deck is always very, very difficult to pull off because you need to work so hard to get damage onto your opponent's tower, and you need to make sure that you're holding up your defense as well. And so I think Gray is still not in the clear yet. He needs to make sure he continues to play well. Good timing on the Inferno Tower, just barely at the edge.
And one poor unfortunate skeleton felt the wrath.
All right, that Royal Giant is getting really close to taking that tower down. I think the Fire Spirit might do it. No! Skeleton Army to defend the Goblin Barrel and the Miner. And I think that's probably a smart choice. Here comes a log. Not quite in time. And I think that Gray really has to leverage the Princess right now. What is Gray's last card? It's a Fireball.
Oh, lightning in Backstab's hand, though. We're going to win the game right now.
Wow. The timing was just a little bit off. I think that was definitely in Gray's hand. He actually had a win condition, I believe. But I think interesting that he revealed his Fireball so late.
Yeah, you think he might have thrown... It's possible that Goblin Barrel was the next card in the cycle, so he had to throw Fireball first for Goblin Barrel. But I agree, the better play there probably would have been Goblin Barrel first, followed up by a Fireball, because it clears out all the skeletons and whatnot around.
Okay. So you mentioned playing Furnace early on. Is it a good idea to play other spawners like that early too for the same reason, or is it just Furnace?
I think just like cards like Elixir Collector, it's one of the best times to have it would be in your opening hand. There's not a significant offense being built by your opponent. You're kind of waiting to see what the other person does. Furnace is a really good pass kind of play. We're both hitting 10. I don't want to attack.
Okay.
Furnace on the board.
Good to
You
know.
have to deal with the Fire Spirits, and your opponent kind of has to attack into you, which is always an advantageous position because defending is so good in Clash Royale.
Sure. Now let's talk about the mind game that Gray pulled. Even though he lost, that was amazing to see.
So good.
If that happens to you once, is that going to happen again?
The best thing to do is just to slow down the drop of your spell. It's kind of tough because the more you slow it down, they'll probably get one stab off, and that kind of buys back the efficiency of the Goblin Barrel in many ways. But you just have to be careful. You know, make sure that you identify correctly where the Goblin Barrel is landing, and that's kind of the strength of the Goblin Barrel. It really is a card that, as you play your opponents more and more and more, you start to find the effectiveness of that card. I think Gray just found it a little bit too slow in that match, was not able to really capitalize on it, but let's see. Let's see if he can do it this game.
Backstab has to switch decks as he already won with his first deck. He's actually playing 2 Royal Giant decks. This is another Royal Giant deck. But one wrinkle of this second deck that he didn't have before was the Archers. The Archers can be split, one going down each lane, and that's a great little passive defense. If you're not really sure what your opponent's going to do, one Archer in each lane will defend against Miners, Goblin Barrels, and other sorts of nasty stuff that might surprise you.
Royal Giant in front of the tower. That signals to me that Backstab really wants to make sure he has another card to play, possibly Lightning. No, it's going to be Archers. And I don't know what else he's going to add onto this push. One of the things that's been really impressing me about the Royal Giant is it seems to survive long enough that Backstab has the opportunity to gain Elixir to throw spells like Fireball and Lightning, and we've seen that done so many times and really opening up Gray's tower for damage.
Absolutely. In both decks, he's running at least one spawner building, a building that produces troops at a steady rate, except I think Tombstone is probably going to be a little worse here than Furnace in terms of clearing out troops, but it seemed very effective there at blocking the Inferno Tower.
All right, the lock has been used to clear out the Princess, and we know that Fireball is out of hand. Gray actually might benefit a lot from throwing the Goblin Barrel, and here it comes. And it's gonna be right in the front, trying to mind game it. Gets away from the zap, but this is a big thing. So he chose position number 3, and that's really risky because then it's gonna go towards the Tombstone in the middle. If you choose position 3, you wanna push it to the left side of the arena so that it goes straight to the tower. That, or choose position number 2, which is below.
You can already see why Gray is such a Rainy fan favorite.
Yeah, the mind games are on point.
And it's exciting. I mean, these are some of the most fun games to cast. Whenever Gray turns up in a big tournament, I'm thrilled from the casting perspective because they're so much fun.
Especially the last few moments of the match can be very explosive when players choose to disobey kind of the spell holding for Goblin Barrel, and you can see a lot of damage being done really quick. But Skeleton Army on top of Royal Giant, and that log just bowled through everything. Again, mind games the Miner to tank for the Goblins. The Skeleton Army is getting held up by the Goblins themselves, and the Miner gets a few good swings despite the fact that Backstab dropped 2-3 Elixir drops to try to stop it.
That was the most orderly filed line of Skeleton Armies I've ever seen. Those were like going on a field trip.
Me first.
Madeline.
Yeah, right? They had the responsibility buddies.
Responsibility. Yeah, I like this from Gray. I think this is one of the things that he needed to do earlier in the last match, is start cycling his fireball more. Nice positioning on the archers will stop the Inferno Tower from tagging onto the Royal Giant, and that actually might make all the difference. This Royal Giant is about to connect in a very big way. Log coming out. Is there another card to punish that log usage? I think that Backstab, or rather Gray, really has to make sure that he's responding to these drops of spells on Backstab's end with spells of his own to make sure that he's always trading with them.
Yeah, it's tough for Backstab because he wants to use his log and his zap on offense, especially zap on the Inferno Tower to reset it, log on the Skeleton Army. That's so dangerous. Oh, here it goes for the win!
Wow.
So threatening. He had to use them on offense, but that was leaving him vulnerable to the counterpunch, right?
Yeah.
The Goblin Barrel being thrown, the Miners showing up. He managed it very, very well, though, and it felt like Gray never really had control of the pacing of the game there.
Yeah, well, there it is.
Congrats.
Congratulations to Backstab now being our first semifinalist of Coronation Day number 4.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gray's down.
Backstab, I mean, this is what I'm talking about, right? Backstab is actually so good. I mean, many people, I think, would have crumbled to the pressure of having Princess, Skeleton Army, Goblin Barrel just constantly being pushed. And one thing that Gray was doing consistently, too, even fighting against Royal Giant, he would put the Inferno Tower down, and the Royal Giant would be shooting the tower. He would spend 2 elixir on the Ice Golem to shove the Royal Giant back just a teensy bit. Royal Giant would retarget to the Inferno Tower, saving his tower health. Despite that, Backstab still knew that all these options were available and was able to overcome Gray as an opponent.
Speaking of Royal Giant, let's take a look at our first replay with that big old guy.
Check out the lightning there. With lightning in the first deck and zap in the second deck, in both situations he had the ability to reset Inferno Tower, which is the #1 enemy of a Royal Giant. Royal Giant's so good against Expo, but we've seen all these Expo decks having Inferno Tower in them that you have to have an answer to it if you're going to play Royal Giant at the highest level.
Big fireball connection takes down the Inferno Tower and the Princess, and the log clears out Skeleton Army and provides a lot of uptime for the Royal Giant. The big thing about it is Royal Giant is healthy enough that even after you throw all your defending cards, it probably still has
So
enough
much
health to
health.
get 3 shots off, and that's good enough in the grand scheme. I mean, oftentimes in Clash Royale, you know, like a Hog Rider getting 1 swing, you're already elated, right? A Royal Giant oftentimes gets 2 or 3 shots.
How much damage does a Royal Giant do at tournament cap to a tower? Each shot.
Ooh, man, I'm a big Royal Giant fan, but you're kind of catching me off guard because he's had his damage nerfed a little bit in the past. It's like 200, it's like 250-ish per shot. So getting 2 to 3 shots off is very significant, absolutely. I really like the double Royal Giant from kind of a macro, like a metagame play, because here's the thing, you have to win with both decks in double deck format. A lot of players, and every Coronation have brought 1 Expo deck as one of their 2 decks. Well, what happens if you have to win with that Expo deck against 2 Royal Giant decks?
Good point.
And that's actually how he made it here. If you look at his records throughout, a lot of times he might lose game 1, but win games 2 and 3 against the opponent because they cannot close the match out with Expo.
That makes sense. All right, next up is T-Bone versus Naruto Uzumaki. Who's the one to watch in this one?
I think, okay, so for Naruto, I think he's risen in popularity in the last few weeks or in the last month. He actually consistently made big performances in tournaments like the Super Magical Cup, consistently making it, I think, to the top 4, if not the top 4, the top 2. Don't know if he's ever been there. Top 4 at the very least, and that's tough to do. T-Bone is a regular competitor as well, but doesn't have the frequency of blowout performances like Naruto has.
I'm very excited for this game with T-Bone here because T-Bone is the debut of the Inferno Dragon, and look at it go! We've all been waiting to see the Inferno Dragon really show off what it can do, and I think Royal Giant's one of the most ideal targets for it. It sits there, it's not going to fight back, and it's got a lot of hit points for the Inferno Dragon to heat up and do a lot of damage to it.
Just as the Inferno Tower, the Inferno Dragon is very susceptible to zap, and we see Naruto has that in his pocket to utilize, and that really hurt the Inferno Dragon's effectiveness. I mean, you can see that first Royal Giant that Naruto played, push the tower down to 1.2k health. That's a big push.
Just like Hog Rider, Expo, other cards that are very valuable at the start of the game, the very first Royal Giant, if played early, can be devastating here. Wow, great lightning.
Nice.
Now that T-Bone actually has his cards in cycle a little much, he kind of knows what he has in hand, I expect to be a little better defense. Cards like Tombstone are actually really good here against the Inferno Dragon, or I'm sorry, the Royal Giant, because you can put the Tombstone right in front. The Royal Giant will shoot the Tombstone, kill it, releasing all the skeletons that then attack the Royal Giant for a ton of damage.
Inferno Dragon locks onto the furnace, and I think it's going to take that furnace down. Look at it burn up. Oh, man.
And that's a 4 for 4. If you consider that the Inferno Dragon already earned a lot of his elixir value by killing the Royal Giant, and then he took a furnace down with it, that's a pretty good Inferno Dragon there, and that's a card that maybe hasn't gotten as much respect as it deserves.
Big thing to watch out for now in double elixir generation time. You can see some very creative card combinations coming out with that Inferno Dragon. Miners popping up the tank for it, or the Lava Hound being used to assist in an Inferno Dragon push. I think that Execution Pending T-Bone has the setup to do a ton of damage to Naruto's tower right now.
That Knight that just got dropped right at the end gets nuked by the Inferno Dragon. The Miner is already there for the Lava Hound. Oh, wow!
Uh-oh. Actually, this is a tough spot. The pups are going to tank for the Inferno Dragon. Naruto needs to make sure he puts cards in front, and it's going to be the Knight that tanks it up, and the Mega Minion will chunk the Inferno Dragon down. Good defense by Naruto, but just look at how much damage T-Bone was able to do now that he has the elixir to push the Lava Hound into his combos.
Downside here is that unlike a lot of decks we've seen, there's no lightning. Oh, there's a lightning strike! Oh, I was gonna say
that was the mystery.
I don't see a big spell in that deck, so how is he gonna finish the game off? The answer is just like that. Only needs 2 Miner hits.
Going into overtime.
The Inferno Dragon burns up the last 5 health of that tower to push it into overtime. My God.
I'll tell you what, Inferno Dragon doesn't do that much damage at the start, but he does at least 5.
It does at least 5. In fact, we have the card information up right up there. It does 30 damage initially, and that heats up very, very quickly.
Look for a Lava Hound to be played in the middle in front of Naruto's base, because the Lava Hound's one of those cards that it's really risky to play it in the back, because they can always drop a Royal Giant right in front and really punish you here. But you can play a lot of troops like Inferno Dragon, Mega Minion on defense, and then as they're counterattacking, just then you go and drop the Lava Hound right in front of the tower.
Ooh, that's a big lightning, and that's actually going to hurt the Inferno Dragon's effectiveness. But let's see, is Zap to try to continue that? That might have actually been too much elixir committed to the defense or to the offensive push that Naruto was trying to put together. But instead, the single Knight tanks off Mega Minion skeletons and the Inferno Dragon as well.
The downside of these all-air decks is that air units generally have worse hit points for their cost than equivalent ground units. There's a lot of stuff in this deck that's really vulnerable to lightning, arrows, zap, that kind of stuff. So Uzumaki is able to use his spells very, very effectively, whereas those big high hit point things in Uzumaki's deck are a little bit harder for him to deal with.
Oh, the Miner coming up to tank, and the lightning removes the Mega Minion from the board. Look at this connection. Look at the health. The arrows. No, the counter arrows. There's 5. Do something. Press something. T-Bone.
He's got the lightning.
Punch your phone. Do something. Tap it. I'm sure if you sneeze, that tower would
There
break.
it is.
Oh, there we go.
Doink.
Oh, there we go.
Whoa.
My God.
And T-Bone takes game 1 of the series. I became Sweaty Face Man for a second there.
Sweaty Face Man.
Yes.
We miss you,
back,
buddy.
Sweaty
We miss you.
Yeah, so T-Bone wins with the Lava Hound. That is the only Lava Hound deck in the top 8, and it is out for the rest of the match. So T-Bone is going to have to close it out with the second deck, which I believe is an Expo deck.
Okay.
Who there had the better double elixir deck, do you think? Once it got down to it.
Ooh, that's tough. I would argue, I don't know about double elixir, but I would argue that if you're in a situation where both towers are down and you're playing one-on-one like that, Royal Giant decks have a huge advantage, because you can play Royal Giant in the middle and without even taking a step, locks onto the other crown tower and starts shooting away. The reason why T-Bone was constantly playing those tombstones, always had a tombstone down, was to block against prospective Royal Giants that would lock onto his tower.
Randy, one of the things there too is I saw that Naruto started playing his Royal Giants super defensively. Like he would start him way back and use it to build. Was that what was his kind of thought process there?
I think that's actually a really good choice. You want to play your Royal Giant far back enough because you want to have Elixir to play spells to assist it. Both spells and your Mega Minion and your guards, whatever cards you want to use to protect the Royal Giant, because it doesn't defend itself. It just walks around and shoots whatever building is in front of it.
Sure.
Even if there's an Inferno Dragon burning its brains out, it's not going to really do anything about it. So you need to make sure you have the Elixir to assist your Royal Giant, and that's really what Naruto was looking to do.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to game number 2 here of our second round of 8. T-Bone up 1-0. If T-Bone can take this, he's going to be joining Backstab in the semifinals.
Uzumaki really wants to move forward against his buddy Backstab. Unless something has changed, I believe both are members of Hammer's Esports. The last
Man,
old Rummy Hammy
these
check.
clan battles.
Exactly, and Full Frontage from the very first one is also a member of Hammer's Esports, so yet another solid tournament clan looking to make their name here at the North American Open.
Uh-oh. Haven't seen enough of this, but let's see. The Royal Giant's going to ignore everything and go straight for the Expo. Guards are trying to do what they can, but I think that Expo is not long to live. I mean, look how tanky that is.
That's amazing.
And this is what we just talked about. Uzumaki is the other player, along with Backstab, running 2 Royal Giant decks. Both of them are running double Royal Giant, and T-Bone is going to have a really hard time closing out games with his Expo. It's very possible that Uzumaki wins games 2 and 3.
All right, let's see.
Great. These Fire Spirits are going to come out and double tap the guards. Ooh, maybe not.
No, none of them get a.
A 2-cost squad of Fire Spirits completely wipes out guards because they 1 jump, 2nd jump knock the shield off, the 3rd jump will take them down. Yep.
Oh no, they're going on a magical journey.
Yeah, taking the night walk.
Run.
I told you, Christian, the very first broadcast, I said slow troops, you can just take them on a little
And the
walk.
Exposure's gonna kill. Oh, I think Exposure's good doing enough to kill him.
The Knight's probably feeling pretty foolish.
He's like, now I'm ready. Oh.
Tell you what, Knight's not joining a track and field team anytime soon.
No.
A little interest. I'm kind of. Oh, that's why. Okay. The reason why T-Bone played his Inferno Tower so early and so far away from the towers, he was trying to avoid the lightning. He was still a little too close to the tower and ended up getting shocked off the board. But he's definitely aware that his opponent is running lightning and doesn't want to walk into it too bad. The normal placement for Inferno Tower against Royal Giants is to wait for the Royal Giant to step just 1 foot into the tower range, and then you drop the Inferno Tower to catch it and have the tower assist with that damage.
This is a classic situation, and we've seen Expo a lot in the Coronation days, where I feel like T-Bone benefits a lot from just starting the Expo game by playing the Expo in the middle of the map. And I really don't see why T-Bone wouldn't try to do that, because I really can't see him doing damage any other way unless he starts using that card in that defensive manner.
Yeah, and I would argue it's just kind of a fringe strat. Oh no, a 2nd Royal Giant and double elixir time makes it really hard to stop this. Now there's the normal place for something like an Inferno Tower right there. The lightnings have been super effective and there's zap as well. Uzumaki is not going to be losing to Inferno Towers with this deck.
Yeah.
Because of the 2 ways to reset it. And the Knight in front was a really good blocker. It absorbed a lot of that damage.
Well, there you go. Naruto Uzumaki tying it up 1-1 against T-Bone. We are going to game number 3 here. Exciting stuff. Super exciting stuff.
So, let's say my opponent has lightning. How do I smartly play around that? It seems like it's almost unavoidable.
Lightning has a pretty big radius. I think it's the same size as arrows. It's pretty significant. What you're really going to have to do is start to play things really far away from the tower, which can even mean something at the river. We saw him play an Inferno Tower pretty far up, but I think the great placement might actually be literally at the river and then maybe off 1 or 2 tiles to the side to keep it just out of range. You'll see that a lot in these Expo matches where they'll play their center Expo like kind of awkwardly far away in the center, where it still covers most of the field but is not close enough for a lightning.
That makes sense. Now, okay, so if you're T-Bone, like we said, we have Uzumaki running 2 Royal Giants, and this is going to be really tough for him to go against this. I saw, is something you can do just wait for the Royal Giant to lock onto your tower and then place your Expo so it's not taking damage? Is that something you might do?
It depends, because that's 6 elixir now that you're committing not to really killing that Royal Giant pretty quick.
It's going to do a lot of damage.
Right.
Think how bad Expo is against Giant. We've seen that a lot. Just regular old Giant is just like the bane of Expos. So if you're going to let the Royal Giant lock onto your tower and then play an Expo, which doesn't do that much damage to it, you're going to eat a lot of damage for that plan. But I do agree with Rainey that T-Bone needs to experiment with this sequencing. It's not, you can't just play the Expo at the river. It's never going to work.
All right.
I would love to see him play it in the center, try to shoot maybe that furnace down, keep the Expo off, and then you can set up a 2nd Expo at the river being covered by the 1st Expo.
All right, well, here it is, the tiebreaker. One of these 2 will be moving on. What do you think it's going to be?
Nice timing on the fireball, takes down the fire spirits that came out of the furnace, hits the tower, and hits the furnace itself. All right, Expo on the river.
It's possible he doesn't have it in hand, but he does have it. It was early enough that it's possible if that was the 7th or 8th card in his deck, may not have had it in hand, but in a timely fashion, the Royal Giant shows up and is a boss.
He's never early holding.
I love Royal Giant. Look at him. He's got chainmail and everything. Hey, pop quiz.
Okay.
And maybe this is something that the last winner can tell us about, or the Lava Hound deck can tell us about. Why does Inferno Dragon, which is wearing armor, have less hit points than Baby Dragon? And why does Royal Giant, who's wearing chainmail, have less hit points than Giant, who's just wearing cloth?
Supercell, please.
Supercell, please.
Supercell, please.
Supercell, please.
Answer this.
This is what keeps me up at night.
Answer this.
So my theory is that the Inferno Dragon has a very combustible backpack that makes it more vulnerable to
Okay.
attack.
Oh, I like that. So then what about
He
the...
should blow up like a giant skeleton or a balloon, then.
I think for the Royal Giant, it's just that his beard catches on fire.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Yep.
Beards are very flammable. I've learned that firsthand
Yeah.
a non-zero number of times.
Not zero number. You're gonna have to tell me about that during the break. I'm really curious to know about
You
that.
guys are learning all sorts of fun facts about my life throughout these breaks. We got 32 hours together, buddy.
Oh goodness.
We're gonna be real good friends.
Yeah. Now that's interesting because he's actually giving an opportunity for his opponent to drop X-Ball on the left side and wouldn't have a Royal Giant to counter it.
Interesting. I actually think this is T-Bone's opportunity. To
Yep.
play the
Yeah.
Expo. The Musketeer gets dropped. Oh, do you have any more elixir to play?
You need something on the ground. Oh, it's locked on. You only need one good X-Bow.
This might be it.
This
man.
could be a big opening for T-Bone. Go, Expo, go! No, the Royal Giant does so much damage. Look at that. Without a care in the world, cannonball in one, cannon in the other. Royal Giant walks over and is about to make short work of T-Bone's base. Timing, notice, now Christian, take a look at that. That tower, that princess on that right side tower is taking a nap because T-Bone played his Inferno Tower too quickly. You have to wait for the Royal Giant to walk into range of the tower before you play your Inferno Tower because otherwise, the Royal Giant will shoot it from out of range.
I don't really like this really hyper-aggressive Royal Giant play. I think Uzumaki's getting a little desperate. He knows he's behind, but I don't think he realized that T-Bone can't really spell cycle him like he might be afraid of. He's going to take a whole lot of fireballs to take that down. There's no lightning in his deck.
Air superiority is a big thing here. The Expo gets a few shots off, and that was really T-Bone's unwillingness to take damage from the Royal Giant onto his tower.
Yes.
He played the Expo to defend against the Royal Giant rather than the Expo in trade for the Royal Giant. Might have been a smarter move.
Absolutely. It's going to be, oh no, here comes another Royal Giant. Again, I don't think I like this because you're giving your opponent opportunities to get another deadly Expo going, and he's already proven that he can do really well with the Inferno Towers countering you.
Inferno Tower gets taken down, and the Mega Minion is going to be a big thing. Oh, gets slowed down by the Ice Golem, and the Mega Minion wins. Expo drop right now would really, really hurt Naruto. Let's see if he can make it work. There's enough elixir for it. There.
Oh,
okay.
defense.
He wants to leapfrog it. I think that's
I think
smart.
he's going to actually spell cycle. He only needs 2 more fireballs, maybe 2 more logs. So if he can pull that off while defending,
It jumped across the river. The Royal Giant is too fat.
what?
The Royal Giant ate just too many hamburgers, and the Ice Spirit can actually jump across the river and freeze it.
Is that true? Wow, because Ice Spirit cannot jump across the river.
I want to see a replay. If we can get a replay of that moment, I would love to see that because that actually happened.
1 more fireball, 1 more log, and I think all of this game can be traced back to that one misplayed Royal Giant that allowed the Expo to get set up and do 1,000. I mean, once he did 1,500 damage with a single Expo, he could switch into the spell cycle mode. If you notice, none of these Expos are actually working, but because he had already done enough damage, he could just do that.
Well, there it is. T-Bone,
Wow.
2-1 against Naruto Uzumaki, being our second semifinalist of Coronation.
Congratulations.
Well done. Well done
I'm
indeed.
so glad that an Inferno Dragon deck has made it to the semifinals.
That's right.
I'm
That's
really
right.
excited about that.
First time
So
tonight,
fun.
and first time to semifinals. They might go all the way.
The Inferno Dragon is just such a cute card. If you see his portrait,
Oh, yeah.
Little face.
Pretty adorable.
way more adorable than a baby dragon. I don't like the baby dragon.
What?
Baby Dragon spits too much.
Baby
That's the
Dragon
thing.
is so cute.
Spitting is very rude.
I love you, Baby Dragon.
Yeah, spitting is very rude. Coming from Singapore, I know that.
Yeah. All right. Well, our first replay is ready. Let's go right into it and take a look.
Ah, there it is. Look at the Inferno Dragon.
All right. It does look like a really cute puppy.
Yeah, this is actually really classic minor Lava Hound. We've seen this a few times in the Coronation Day, but just the timing there for T-Bone was really, really great. The arrows, and then that put it in that critical health zone to take out the tower, the last few remaining pieces of health. I think that the air superiority was a big thing for T-Bone in this situation. Earned them a lot of shots on the Expo.
I think, especially if Uzumaki and Backstab are clanmates, Backstab should be put on notice. Like, both of them brought double Royal Giant decks, and Uzumaki lost to the thing that should be his best matchup in the field, and it mostly just came down to executional errors, not necessarily the deck being weaker, right? So there should definitely, like, Backstab should keep that in mind. He's got a few more Expo decks to play because he's got to fight T-Bone in the next round. Don't make the same mistakes that your clan made, and you might make the finals.
Okay, well, let's take a look at our brackets.
So
What's
far.
going on so far?
Man, these first 2 games feel like they flew by really quickly.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
I think
Really
Backstab X is probably the player to watch for me. I think it's tough to see a situation where Backstab doesn't make the finals just because I have so much faith in him as a player and as a decision maker. Watch out for him. He's coming to stab you in the back.
And I'm, of course, Marcel P, the most consistent player so far in the North American Open. I mean, 3 top 8s and 4 events, that's pretty unreal.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
pretty
I
good.
think we'll probably see him over the next 12 shows as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's definitely the person to look at the bottom of the bracket, although don't count out the winter of Santi and Brian RT. Both of those are very consistent, very popular players. Brian RT especially is somebody who has very excellent mechanical skills, and it would not surprise me if he won the whole thing.
All right, well, again, these guys are playing here. They've gone through our open qualifiers to our Coronation Day, which is happening right now. After this, 16 people. Moving on to the arena battles, where only 8 will go to those crown duels. First place taking home $15,000 and a trip to Supercell HQ. And also just going down in Clash Royale history forever and all eternity.
Yeah,
Until the
and on our
internet
wall.
decides to crash.
Yeah.
Which will never happen.
Skynet takes over.
Skynet takes over and it's all fine. But what they're playing for today, first place of the Coronation Day takes home $2,000. Second place, $500. Third and fourth, $300. And fifth through eighth, $100. Because again, just getting here, these guys deserve so much more than this. Because they've gone through so many people. Again, over already 100,000 of you guys have made it to our open qualifiers. And keep joining, keep coming, because we love having you guys here. Yeah, you guys could be up here.
You
guys
could be
could be
winning
over there.
$15,000.
Yeah.
And also haikus. Remember to submit those because they're so fun and you guys are awesome at them. 575 syllables.
That's right. And just and
We're
again,
gonna hit you.
please make sure you have Rainy/read/draw it, because I want to see an artistic representation of this. Up next, Santi versus Brian RT. Again, this is our 3rd round of 8. Like you said, flying by, it seems like, today.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of these decks that we're seeing now are much more decisive in the first 3 minutes of the game. When you get into these siege on siege matchups like we've seen with Expo mirror matches,
chess masters.
it just goes 2.5 minutes into overtime. We had some draws if you remember, but this time people are playing very aggressive decks. Giant Bowler, Royal Giant, Lava Hound. Those decks are meant to win the game. And
I love it.
Yeah, the games are going much, much faster.
Let us know who you think is going to take it, Santi or Brian R.
Let's see, Santi has Giant Bowler and an Expo deck. Brian RT has Hog Lightning and an Expo deck, so we'll see which ones they're bringing.
All right.
Game 1, Santi, this is his Giant Bowler deck, and Hog Lightning, of course, out of Brian RT. Ooh, bad matchup though, Bowler v Hog.
Hog gets 1 swing, I guess.
That's actually pretty good though, because you figure that Santi just spent 6 elixir there on Skeletons plus Bowler, only 4 out of Brian RT, and he still got 1 swing of damage. Not too bad.
Ooh, Skeleton Army, well timed, and that's exactly the method that you have to play your Skeleton Army in if you don't want them to just get taken down by a strike.
Sure. Yeah, if you put them all directly in front, they're going to get rolled over right away. But by surrounding the bowler with its really slow attack speed, can only kill chunks of them at a time instead of all. Ooh, I like that play a lot. Archers, if you recall, Clyde ran double archers in his second place finish, and that was a very, very good play. So many arrows, so many logs in the field, and archers don't die to either.
These archers will be taken care of by the Ice Wizard, and so far Brian RT has cycled 1 Hog Rider to give him 2 swings in total, or rather 2 Hog Riders to give him 2 swings in total, and I think that situation is going to change as they head into double elixir time. That's going to allow Santi to cycle that bowler much more often. In fact, the fact that Santi has played his bowler here aggressively means that there is an opportunity for Brian RT to counterattack with a Hog Rider, but Giant and Bowler making it down towards the tower already means that Santi is liable to take or do a lot of damage. Brian RT has to scramble to defend, but took about 1,000 damage in health anyways.
Ice Spirit is so good. We've been talking, we defined all these decks as, Expo decks, Giant decks. One of the cards that they almost all have in common is Ice Spirit.
Yep.
For 1 elixir with a 2-second freeze if it lands, it's really, really hard to not get your 1 elixir value out of that card. And it's so amazing on defense. It stops things up to like Musketeers, Mini P.E.K.K.A.s, Ice Wizards, things like that can all just be stopped along with the tower. With a friendly Ice Spirit.
No! I thought that princess was gonna live, but Santi had a good grasp on the range. Oh god, Skeleton Army. Oh, gets arrowed down, and that means that the next princess can actually survive. Mega Minion protecting the Hog Rider actually, and that's gonna get 2 swings, gets a second swing, and this is actually getting really close. One of the best ways for Hog Rider to win against a Giant Bowler deck is to make sure that you close it out right as overtime pops up, and just don't defend the last set of Giant Bowler that Santi plays. Punish them for playing that 11 elixir by having your Hog Rider come down and trade for that tower because the Hog Rider is faster.
1 swing, he only needs 1.
Come on, there it is! Interestingly enough, Brian RT's cycle was quick enough that he could kind of route the bowler, and the fact that Santi has tried to go to the other lane consistently, I think probably the wrong decision. Okay. I would say that, now hindsight is 20/20, right?
Sure.
I would have just, even though the left side tower is lower, just go down the right side with the Giant Bowler. Make sure that you mitigate damage as well as put pressure on your opponent.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, another thing that I think Brian RT did really well, and if he didn't do this exactly right, that hog wouldn't have swung. Lightning stuns for a half second. That means that if you were in the middle of an attack animation, you freeze the attack animation, don't attack for a half second, and then sometimes kind of reset the attack. Bowler has a very slow windup, a 2.5 second attack speed, so freezing him and interrupting that attack speed buys you a significant amount of time. Yeah.
I noticed he kept sending poor little Hog Rider all by his lonesome, and whenever I do that, I just get crushed.
Yeah,
but he set it up right.
There's a lot. Yeah, he wasn't actually being sent alone. Lightning may not be a troop, but it is a 6 elixir card.
It's in the
that
sky.
Can do a lot of stuff. It was taking out Mega Minions, Musketeers, Ice Wizards. I mean, there's a decent amount of cards that Lightning can clean up, and of course, freezing the bowler and doing most of the damage to it.
Yeah, super
so good.
I mean, that's a 10 elixir push there. It might only be 2 cards, but it's pretty dangerous.
One of the things, Rainey, I want you guys to talk to me about. You guys talk so much about trading efficiently, right? Oh, that was a 6 defense against a 4 offense. That's a favorable trade for offense. Yep. How do you get good?
Yeah.
How do you get better at looking at that and going, oh yeah, okay, my opponent's pushing with this many, looking at my hand and be like, oh, is that just the more knowledge of the game?
I think the most ethereal part of this, and actually the hardest part for people to grasp, is that doing damage to an opponent's tower is actually a tax on your elixir as well, because that's actually damage that your unit is pumping into your opponents that is actually not clearing any elixir on the board, right? So for example,
Mr. Giant Skeleton.
If there was a Mini P.E.K.K.A. walking across the board, right, and you just let the Mini P.E.K.K.A. swing against your tower, that means that, say you drop the Musketeer on to defend against the Mini P.E.K.K.A., but the tower is the one taking the damage, Musketeer isn't actually getting removed from the board, and after the Mini P.E.K.K.A. is dead, you have a full health Musketeer that's coming across. So that's not really a 4-for-4 trade. You're essentially giving your opponent the Mini P.E.K.K.A. and gaining 4 elixir by having a full health.
Yeah.
By the way, don't do that, because Mini P.E.K.K.A. swinging on your tower is something that you never really want to happen, but
noted.
Use just for example, do not replicate at home.
All right, well, right now, Brian RT is up 1-0 against Santi. He seems one more to move on.
And Brian RT's second deck is an Expo deck, and it looks like he's got the little Ice Golem set up. The challenge here is that Santi is still on his Giant Bowler deck. Pretty tough matchup for him. Santi, I believe, the only representative in today's field from the great country of Mexico.
All right.
Clash Royale North American Open is, of course, open to Canada, USA, and Mexico. So, been a lot of Spanish-speaking people in chat. It's been pretty awesome to watch how excited they get, and let's see if Santi can take it home for him.
It's an Expo surprise, and it looks like the bowler's gonna miss the cleave. Actually, that might be the biggest difference in all of this. If Brian RT can drop something in front, he's gonna log the bowler back, but he needs to play something else. Oh, the Ice Spirit's coming down to freeze up the Expo. Oh,
wow. That was great.
That was just like he drew it up in the playbook.
He's like, planned it. we talked about Ice Wizard throwing noodles, like wet noodles. It does seem, though, when you see an Expo lock onto a high tank target, it's even weaker than wet noodles.
It's noodlier, yeah.
What is that?
I believe the Expo does 35 damage per shot. The Ice Wizard, I think, does like 40 or 50 or something like that.
They're real close.
It's pretty, it's pretty stinko malenko damage.
One's a stale noodle. Yeah.
let's count here. We got 2046. Should go down to 2011, I think, on the first one. But we'll never know because the bowler is blocking it.
Bowler's taking it like a boss.
Giant is coming across and still no response. There is the late Inferno Tower, and I believe lightning is in hand if Santi chooses to do so, and he does, and that's going to mean that that Giant's going to get 2 swings. Nope, just 1 swing now.
It requires, though, a little bit of extra elixir, right? That's 4 extra elixir that Brian RT had to commit to the board in response to the removal of the Inferno Tower. So there's a lot of that ticky-tacky back and forth when you play where committing elixir to the board on your side to help your attack can often force your opponent to go deeper into an elixir hole to catch up.
Big thing for Santi is every time he plays that 6 elixir, he's guaranteed to get damage on the tower, whereas these units that are coming across the bridge might not even make it to the tower as well. So Santi is getting the better exchange because he always gets value for that 6 elixir he spends on lightning.
Here's the Giant across the board. It's played on the other side. It's played in the middle like that to purposefully connect with the Expo and have the Expo stick to it.
All right, Inferno Tower is played in that particular position, so it can't actually be lightninged out, and that provides it the opportunity to bring down the Giant and the bowler, and another bowler is played on the right side to stop that crossbow from locking onto the tower, but that might just be 1 too many. I believe another Expo is in cycle, and that could make it very dangerous. I think the Giant has to trade for the Expo at this point. There's a Giant, there's a defensive Expo that can definitely be lightninged out.
Oh, it's a good point. He's definitely way too close. I think Brian RT's got to go for the big leapfrog player. I understand why he's getting a little desperate. That Inferno Tower, though, look at that. So far up that you cannot lightning it and a tower along with an Expo.
I think that's very, very good positioning. Ideally, that Expo would have been placed in a slightly better spot so that it wouldn't be lightninged alongside the Inferno Tower, but I just don't think there's enough real estate on the board for that.
You know what's going to make that really interesting as of after today's broadcast is the graveyard comes out about 2 hours after we go off air. And if there's one card that graveyard likes fighting, it's Inferno Tower. You swarm that bad boy.
Oh, it's locked onto the tower.
Trying to count. It's going too fast. Trying to count.
Has to lightning the Expo to untarget it, but will Santi be willing to make that investment? That's huge damage onto the tower. Not quite enough to spell cycle. I mean, you could. We'll see if Brian RT makes that decision, but it's coming down to the wire. Inferno Tower gets dropped out of lightning range on both sides, but needs to make sure he handles the Mega Minion. The Ice Spirit should freeze that Mega Minion.
The Giant's free!
All the Expo, but it can't get lightning, and I think this might be the end. The Mega Minion is going to get taken down by the lightning. The Ice Golem doesn't do anything to the Giant. Guards needs to be played.
2.
Oh, and he has to log, which is 1 log that he would much rather use on that 640 health right side tower.
This is a frighteningly close match. It's very tough to call who's going to go which way. Brian RT is going to need to fight hard. He's just going for the fireball?
Worth mentioning, the 8th card in Santi's deck is a skeleton army that he's never found a time to play. I think it's kind of funny.
Interestingly enough, Brian RT chose to put the Inferno Tower too far away and took 1 lightning. I don't know if this was a mathematically genius play or what, because I think a fireball and log will close out the game for Brian RT. And in a surprise,
Log's coming down.
Log.
He's looking forward. The 2 elixir Ice Golem is placed.
Lightning comes in right at the end. The log saw victory and lightning said no. Santi tying it up against Brian RT. 1-1. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you play Clash Royale.
I can't believe
you think you win? You think you win?
Whoa,
I-
come on, my game.
That was great. And that actually shows the difference between spells that have a travel distance
And
or
are
travel
instant.
time and instant. Lightning goes anywhere, Zap goes anywhere, and they cast as soon as you cast it, spend the elixir,
Poison.
boom, it's off, right? Poison's much slower, right? It takes a little time to work over compared to Fireball, which hits pretty quickly. In both of those situations, if that log was instant like a Zap was,
Game over.
yeah, Brian RT wins the game and the match, but instead, the log's rolling, lightning zaps.
Ooh, that was close.
That was too much.
So, I'm in a match. I'm in
got
a
it.
match,
All right.
and I immediately see that like my deck is not good against my opponent's deck. How can I still put up a fight?
I would say the difference between just picking up a deck and knowing it's plan A, like for example, if you're playing a giant bowler deck, or especially those old ones that had Elixir Collector, you kind of know the plan A. Put down Elixir Collector, put down a giant behind the King Tower, put a Prince or a bowler behind that, and then it's like the plan, right? The mastery of a deck is knowing the plan Bs and the plan Cs and plan Ds of when you're put in these really awkward situations, how can you sequence your cards in unconventional ways in order to get around the obstacles presented there to you? What I really liked is we saw Brian RT using the Ice Golem almost as like a lightning catcher.
Right.
We saw Santi trying to bait out like weird expos and stuff. There's ways to do it, but we'd have to interview some of these players because it's mastery, right? That's when we define mastery of a deck. It's that. It's knowing how to.
That's why they're here.
Yeah. Anyone can play a deck in one way. Only masters can play.
Spawners.
Yeah, right.
Santi versus Brian RT right now, 1-1. The next victory will go on to the semifinals. Let us know right now who you think it's going to be. Root for your favorite player.
Minor correction from the last game. The last card in his deck was actually arrows that he never cast. It wasn't Skeleton. I was looking at the wrong deck list. So
Skeleton
yeah,
Army's
Skeleton Army's in this list, not the
Santi?
other one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it a lot, and Brian RT played the Expo nearest tower towards the end and got lightning for it, which ended up putting him in lethal range for lightning. I actually think what Brian RT was going for was playing 3 things that were higher health than the tower.
Because he had the Mega Minion, but it was just out of range.
I think that's what he was going for. Still, though, I'm so caught up about that loss. He was so good about playing his buildings in the right place all game long, and it's just.
I've just been so impressed with Ice Golem so far in this tournament series. Ice Golem seems to have so many use cases, not just in Expo decks, but we've seen it, I believe, in Giant Poison lists. It's great just on defense. Hey, you can even take Knights for a walk all the way into the other lane.
That's right. That's right.
There it is.
Now, the
Speak of
catch
the
here
devil.
is that now it's an Expo mirror match as the Giant Bowler deck takes it home. So I really like the center-placed Expo there, which kind of prevents your opponent from ever getting an Expo against you.
Now, like I said, this is an Expo mirror match. What are the cards that are different between these two players?
Let me take a look. Brian RT's deck he runs guards instead of Skeleton Army.
Okay.
The end.
Okay.
That is actually the only difference between their
So
two
we've
decks.
got tons of skeletons or skeletons with armor.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so the log in Brian RT's deck is going to be slightly more effective there because log is only going to knock off the shields of guards, whereas it's going to just straight up kill the skeleton army.
True.
Right? On the other hand, if not answered, if the log comes out for some other reason, right, skeleton army has a much higher upside than something like guards.
I really like the way that these two players are playing out their Expo mirror match because I feel like they've definitely identified that the center place Expo is the optimal play to mitigate damage.
Right.
I think that's something that we haven't really been seeing in the Coronation days previously, but they've definitely embraced that now. And I think that's going to make all the difference here. Interestingly enough, I don't feel like I've seen an Inferno Tower played yet.
Well, it's not been played out of Santi's deck, but it has been played out of Brian RT's deck at least once because it's visible to us in the live spectator mode. But look at this. I mean, they're really.
Whoa.
Oh man, I think he would have much preferred to fireball that Mega Minion if he could have hit there. But he's hitting 10 elixir. This shows really the importance of being able to invest elixir reasonably. These decks don't have a lot of great ways to invest elixir. Brian RT did it by playing the Mega Minion behind the King Tower. Santi did it just by fireballing the tower. Neither of those are really great answers. I would like to see one of these players maybe drop an Ice Golem behind their King Tower or something, but they're holding the Ice Golem because they need to be able to block expos just like that. Ooh,
Inferno Tower is going to be the middle placed structure, and it's not going to be able to contribute to damage on the Expo, and so Brian RT is going to. I think that Expo is actually going to run wild. He needs to play another structure. Another Expo is going to be the choice. The Ice Spirit weirdly jumps way over the river and jumps onto the Ice Golem. And now the Mega Beam is connecting to the Expo. And this is a big opening for Brian RT. And that might be it. Puts the tower low enough that 2 fireballs will actually take it.
2 fireballs will put it to 1.
Romam, I love your brain.
It's actually fireball's the easiest one. It's 222.
2.
I still love it.
Okay, all right. I'll give you 2, Christian. I like your choice in clothing.
Wasn't me.
I don't know how to get myself dressed in the
I'm a total liar. It's 230 or something like that. I don't know. That's gonna be enough. Second fireball will kill
They're
it.
already throwing the good games out. It looks like Brian RT might have this one. Minute 30. I guess the next cycle. Is there anything
All right,
Santi can
Christian,
do?
I don't think
do you
there's
know when that
anything-
fireball is going to come down?
It's going to come down in 3, 2, 1. Oh, there it is. Brian RT picking up that second game against Santi. He is moving on to the semifinals to join T-Bone and Backstab. Quite a fantastic game there between those guys. Oh.
What made the difference in that mirror match? Do you guys?
I think decision making by far.
Okay.
I mean, weirdly enough, we've seen this twice where a deck that should beat another deck loses. And I think chiefly because of aggressive playing, right? On both cases. Royal Giant was played too aggressively. Well, I would have to see the replay to really make sure, but I think Santi had some slip-ups. I'm sure he had some slip-ups in terms of how he was ordering his cards, because we've seen Giant Bowler be incredibly effective against Expo, and I'm not convinced that it's an Expo-favored matchup. Right?
Okay, well here's our Hog Rider replay.
Right, the Hog Rider is actually super effective, and
Here's
multiple
that key
times.
lightning.
Yeah.
Doom, and it kills something that was played right in front of the. There was a Mega Minion, the helmet fall,
Oh,
the
there it
helmet
is,
on
yeah.
the ground.
The helmet was by
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, that's really what it was. It was a Hog Rider against a Bowler. I mean, it's not quite as bad as a Giant Bowler matchup versus Expo, but Hog Rider versus Bowler is still incredibly difficult. And I really do think that playing the Giant and the Bowler down the same lane would have provided Santi much more stability, much more opportunities to control the pace of the match, right? And I think just foregoing that opportunity to try to go toe-to-toe, basically saying, I'm gonna play in a beatdown aggressive style. Beatdown is where you just kind of go wild for doing damage on your opponent's tower. You know, you play big combos or you play efficient combos that go straight to the tower health, right? But you try to go toe-to-toe against a Hog Rider in that match, and I don't think you come out on top most times.
Okay. One of the things I also want to talk about there, Santi and Brian T, it was really cool to kind of see him get in this pattern of one would play defensive Expo, one would play offensive, and they'd trade. And the other person, it was really back and forth for a couple minutes there. When you find yourself in a pattern with your opponent where you guys are literally just trading and no one's really taking damage, I guess like the pressure is like, okay, do I mix it up and then fail and let them have the huge advantage there? Or, you know, how do you break that cycle once you find yourself in one? That's not like, oh, all right, this might be me throwing it.
You really have two options, and it's no way to say just kind of sitting on the couch which one's the better option, but you can either try to improve on it, which means that you expect them to do the exact same thing they did last time, and you are planned for, but you know the guards are going to come down, so you play Fire Spirits early because you're expecting those guards to show up, or you can just wild card it and completely switch up your strategy, hoping that they play an inefficient line of defense because they are expecting you to do the same thing you did last time. Kind of depends on the decks and the matchup there, but I don't know.
All right, kind of game to game.
Mango versus Marcel P.
Marcel P coming out for the third time, and Mango is a name that we have not yet seen. Is that a name that we know from a clan?
I'm loosely familiar with Mango, but I wish I was more read up on him than I should be. Marcel P is obviously the far more widely known co-leader of Reddit Alpha. I disagree with both of these players right now.
Yeah, what's happening?
Both of them
Mind
probably,
games.
Here's my guess. They both have
Good luck.
They have bad opening hands, and they're afraid that if they commit Elixir to the board, the other person is going to really punish them. So at some point, one of them's going to have to make a move. Now, here's the thing. Marcel P may have not known if Mango was opening with an Expo deck, and if he goes, if I play this giant behind the King Tower, I'm just going to get, my Expo'd my face off. He really lucked out in that it was the Mega Minion that came down there.
The fact that Musketeer is walking to the left actually really hurts Marcel P. He would have much preferred that Musketeer to go to the right.
The two decks here. Marcel P is playing a giant Bowler Lightning like we just saw.
Oh, big lightning eliminates the Princess and the Inferno Tower and gets a giant 2 swings on the tower.
That log from Marcel P though
3.
actually didn't hit. It only hit the tower.
Oh, it missed. Oh, no.
I think I don't know if he was trying to get the princess there, or he did throw out a little oops.
Mango is playing a very interesting archetype. We've been calling it sort of Minor Inferno Siege. It's not necessarily a deck that attacks ever. It's going to sit back using defensive cards like Skeleton Army, Mega Minion, Ice Spirit, and of course the namesake Inferno Tower to prevent as much damage as possible to his tower and slowly but surely grind out victories late into overtime with Minor, Princess, and occasionally even Log. Actually, Log and Arrows for additive damage.
Yeah.
Bowler gets burned up, and I think maybe the lightning is the play here. No, he's just going to let the Mega Minion swing once. Did not want to invest damage into the other side, I guess. And notice, guys, Marcel P was a player that played Siege heavily. Marcel P was a player that played Siege heavily, and I think now he's really switching up his style, and I think he's finding relatively good success right now.
Well, there's also the catch of the double deck format forces you to play at least 4 cards different. It's really difficult to play 2 Siege decks given that a lot of Siege decks want to use the same cards. I mean, there might be a 5, 6, 7 card duplication between 2 different Expo decks. You just can't do that with double deck. So by playing Giant Bowler, it really frees up his other deck. He's playing a Bowler Lightning deck, a second deck, to be as efficient as it wants to be.
Cycle to the next Inferno Tower, and the question is, have you cycled to Lightning once again? And basically every single time Mango is playing the Inferno Tower now, Lightning is just doing damage to the tower.
Yep.
Ooh, that miner.
Defensive miner is not what you want to do. That's 3 elixir. That's not worthless because it is going to run up to the tower, but that is. Miner's a terrible offensive card to run across the bridge with. If you're not having it pop up right on the tower or right near the tower, it's really not
its main
worth 3
thing.
elixir. Yeah, not quite.
I think that Marcel P is committed just to playing defense. He knows that he can spell cycle.
Lightning for the win anytime he wants to, basically. He's got to save up back to 6, so we're maybe 3 elixir away from game 1 being over.
Yep. And I think the fact that the skeleton army was dropped means that Marcel P has it.
Yep. Yep, there it is. The good game coming out. Marcel P picking up the first victory of our final round of 8 Coronation Day number 4 match.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's looking strong. He wants to make it. Again, first day he got to the finals.
And I would argue that his second deck, his alternate deck, which is usually a player's weaker deck
Sure.
in it, is actually the one that he's far more comfortable with. His second deck is a Bowler, Lightning, very defensive, CG sort of deck where he's just going to pretty much try to Lightning cycle people out of the game. I would expect Marcel P to be very, very comfortable going into games 2 and 3.
Well, that was the thing too. Is it was because of his alternate deck in the finals. He was running the Tesla Tower and he just couldn't win with it, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
And that's how Eric came back and Ender.
Ender
came back.
beat him. If you recall from the first Coronation Day, it was an Expo mirror match in the finals. Ender actually lost the first two games. Marcel P won, goes up 2-0.
Yep.
But in the Expo mirror match, Ender's deck was a little cheaper, a little slimmer. It had Ice Golem and Log compared to Marcel P's Knight and Arrows. And even though that seems, what's the difference of 1 more elixir? That literally was the difference. You would slowly watch Marcel P fall behind. I think that's the moment he realized, I can't play a second best Expo deck. I need to play the best version of each archetype that I can play, and that's why he's brought 2 distinctly different decks this time. Although Bowler is in both, so he's prepared for all the Expos in the field.
Learning from his mistakes, right?
Absolutely.
So we saw Miner a lot in that game. Does he do good damage just by himself?
Not at all. Miner actually is the only troop in the game.
Poor guy.
Okay, so spells do full damage to troops and buildings, but 40% damage to towers. Miner has that same restriction where he does about 160, I think it's 160 damage to troops, buildings, whatever, but only 64 to towers.
He needs some backup.
Yeah, so it's 160, but that'll be 60. Well, you'll see it'll be 64 against towers, because of course he can pop up directly next to a tower, and that would be pretty good if he could swing for 160 on towers.
All right, well, I know Marcel P up 1-0. See if maybe we can come back and tie it up.
Marcel P looking in a dominant position, but we've seen situations where players have come back from a 1-0 deficit, taking the game. Giant is going down the other lane compared to the Bowler going down the right, making me need to contest air, and it looks like Giant Bowler is the push for Mango. Just the Tesla Tower to defend. The Ice Spirit's gonna help out a little bit, but that Musketeer shooting from downtown, and actually this Bowler is gonna make a big connection, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, Mega Minion is in the deck, but it may not be in cycle right now. He definitely doesn't have a ton of elixir for it.
Musketeer.
How did he fall so far behind? Look at this. He's down by 5 elixir right now.
I think it really was a trade. It was kind of the opening gambit where Marcel P sent the Bowler down the right, and the Giant for Mango had actually been committed to the left, coupled by the fact that Marcel P is trying to get away with a Tesla as a defensive tower.
Yeah.
Not the best against the
Marcel
Giant.
P, no.
He really does love that Tesla Tower. It's one of his trademark signature cards, I would argue. But yeah, you're right, and that shows maybe why in the first game they were both so hesitant to commit that first card to the board, is because in a situation like that where he sent basically the wrong card down the wrong lane, it came back to bite him about a minute later.
That's 6 elixir, to put it in perspective. 6 elixir that is not contributing to the defense at all for the Bowler. Oh, right, 5. You're right. You're right.
You're right. It's okay.
Once upon a time.
It's been a long week, Rainey. I can't remember Fireball's damage, even though I fireball people.
Oh
all
my
day.
God! Second time in a row that Bowler is really.
Ooh, that miniature skeleton army there is getting up. Oh, they
just die every single time. I'm next. No. I'm next. No. I'm next. No. This is denied.
Yeah, I think you're right, Rumham. We've been casting Clash Royale games for so long that I feel like I'm getting senile.
Through so many balance updates, no less.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, we've had cards change 3, 4, 5 times since we started casting together.
Oh, Bowler barely not hitting the tombstone.
Oh, what a great lightning. Minor lightning is one of the most satisfying attacks you can do in the game. People will often drop cards like Mini P.E.K.K.A, Lumberjack, Musketeer, Near to stop. Whoa! One tower goes down for Mango. In order to stop your Minor, and being able to lightning the tower and the defense against the Minor is pretty satisfying.
Yeah, Mango has done really well for himself, just not letting go of the advantage he gained in the opening moments of the game. And I actually think that's a little tougher than it seems. You know, you may have seen that Mango did a really great push at the start of the match, but to be able to continue that and keep a good hold of the game following through is actually tougher than it seems.
There we go. Mango now tying it up 1-1 against Marcel P. We're going into game number 3. That rhymed. Diddly dee.
All right. You have to throw that in there.
It just fell.
Anyway.
Thank you, Ned Flanders.
Fell really hard.
So Marcel P was down over half his HP on that one tower.
Yeah.
Not even halfway through the match, I think. How do you change up your strategy to be defensive and try and save that tower?
You know, sometimes your opponents run up the score in the first quarter of the game. I agree with Rainey that first interaction went so badly that Marcel P found himself significantly behind an Elixir. When you're that far behind an Elixir, you need to set aside the idea that you're going to be attacking anytime soon. Try to get back up to 10 Elixir. Let your opponent make the first move, and if you can make Elixir positive trades on defense, you can start to even up those Elixir counts. And I think Marcel P just had a really hard time getting on his foot, especially without Inferno Tower against a giant bowler deck, two very high health cards.
So what's the next deck played that Mango has to bring?
Mango is actually going back to the deck he played in Game 1, the Skeleton Army, Minor, Mega Minion, Princess sort of siege deck.
Okay.
And actually, Marcel P is the other person playing a Minor defensive siege deck. So this will be a very grindy matchup. Every point of damage is going to matter because both of them are looking to finish it off with spells and Minor. Big thing to look for, Mango is running both Princess and Skeleton Army. Marcel P has Arrows and Bowler, both of which are going to match up pretty well against those cards.
All right, well, Mango and Marcel P will be our final semifinalists. One of them will be. Let's
Here
see
it
who
comes. Dig it in.
Ooh, I love that Tesla.
Wow. Just sandwiched.
And now it gets to hide there for a little bit. Goes back into the hidey hole.
It's interesting because that's a 4 for 3, but you could argue that, okay, Marcel P is actually really throwing away a lot. Look at the purple on the board.
He knows. They can see each other's decks. The players have been provided each other's decks before this matchup, and they know that this is a siege on siege matchup. So Marcel P's got to take every
Just starting
opportunity
damage early.
to get the damage early, because
Yeah.
you know your opponent's not going to put together some big 15 Elixir, giant bowler, super crazy push on you. But what's going to matter is when you're deep in overtime, who is that much closer to the final point of damage.
Yes, getting started early is going to be really important. Marcel P is having to face the fact that he's got 2 towers down, a bit of health each. He's going to need to make a decision on which one he wants to focus on, because if he doesn't do that, I really think Mango has the opportunity to really make the deficit back.
Unfortunately, Inferno Tower is not great in this matchup because it's 5 Elixir that's never gonna really...
It's just kind of sitting there.
Yeah, Tesla Tower is kind of equally meh, but hiding in the hidey hole is pretty good. You're not gonna be that vulnerable to spells, and it costs 1 less Elixir, so it's easier to make even trades.
I didn't know that. If you freeze a Tesla tower before it goes down, it stays out.
Stays up, yeah. Stays right where it is. And let's see if another lightning comes down here. I think it's going to be the race of who can play the most lightnings. I could see him, and actually, the reason why he played that Inferno Tower back and by the tower is that there's nowhere for the Minor to go now where he's not getting tagged by the Inferno Tower. And of course, the Skeleton Army, very passive defense. The idea there...
Interesting. What are you going to do about the Princess now?
We're just going to bowler.
Oh, wow.
Value rock.
That was a perfect game for that bowler right there.
Sweet.
Just like that, the Inferno Tower is able to play a little bit of defense.
Tesla Tower played on the wrong side, but still, the fact that Mango is having to spread his damage across the 2 towers is not ideal. You would have liked to play that Minor on the left, on the right side instead of the left. Mega Minion is going to be able to do a lot of free damage here because it's out of range of Marcel P's tower. And I think that Marcel P is just storing Elixir to make sure he has another opportunity to start using Lightning on the tower on the right.
Yeah, almost all of these cards and both of their decks are very good on defense, but kind of miserable on offense on their own. So neither of their counterattacks are really threatening in any significant way.
I really like the use of Skeleton Army as a defensive card, but I think Marcel P probably would be smart to start pre-firing those arrows.
He didn't have an answer for that Miner right there and ate a lot of damage. Miner, if completely unanswered, does do a pretty good amount of damage. Does about 500, 400 or so if left all alone.
That's a very fast cycle for Marcel P and actually gets ahead of the Skeleton Army. Look for Marcel P to be playing another Miner very, very soon and possibly coupling it with arrows to make sure that no units drop down to defend with it, and maybe even a lightning. It's actually getting into the zone where Marcel P can swing for lethal now. Are the arrows going to come out? No, he doesn't play it there. Finally doesn't come.
Yeah, I'd like to see him start pre-firing arrows.
Oh, no. This is a big connection from Mango, and Marcel P might be throwing the match away.
Oh, right at the end. Mango picking up the victory. That was the final card in his deck that he wasn't. Was that? What was he holding on to? Was that Zap? Was that?
It was. It was what, Log? No, he had Log. Arrows, maybe?
Okay.
Arrows might have been the last card there. There's nothing really in Marcel P's deck to arrow. I mean, you're not going to arrow a Bowler or an Ice Golem or whatever. So he was holding it, and once he saw the tower got low enough damage,
done.
That's it.
Well, Mango,
wow,
congratulations.
congrats.
He is now our final semifinalist who will be moving on to join Backstab, T-Bone, and Brian.
We've still got 4 players left as I look at all their deck lists here.
Ooh, what's coming up?
Let's see. Well, we're going to have, of course, Backstab versus, not Brian RT.
T-Bone.
T-Bone, right? Got here? Brian RT.
While you're doing that, let's pull up the replay
do that.
with the Bowler and the Musketeer. Just the Musketeer, so much value here.
Musketeer is a really, really great card. For 4 elixir, you get such a versatile ranged damager that really you can protect very well. We talk about cards that are left with 1 health still make a lot of effect on their own. Musketeer is great at that just because of the fact that it stays far enough back that it's really hard to play cards on top of it without getting those cards mucked up by whatever else is in front of the Musketeer.
One of the tough things there was Marcel P didn't really want to commit elixir to the left side and deal with that princess. And
It was
that
the
left side
princess.
princess kept shooting.
That's what it
shooting.
was.
And that was just really tough for Marcel P. Second, a coronation in a row that Marcel P has been bumped in the round of 8, but that is no slight against him as he has fought through tens of thousands of players.
Yeah.
And I agree, Ella.
We'll probably
I'd expect
see him
to be
next
back.
time.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, now let's pull up the bracket to take a look at kind of what we have gotten so far. Just the story. Gray has gotten knocked out. Naruto has gotten knocked out. Santi, and now finally Marcel P. So going into now the semifinals, who is the person to watch?
For me, I would say that it's Backstab. I think out of all the players here, I'm most afraid of Backstab or most confident that he will make it through to the finals.
Okay. Rumham, how about for you?
It's a hard choice. You know what? Rainey, let's fight. I'm going T-Bone. I think Backstab's a really strong player, but I love Lava Hound, I love Inferno Dragon, and T-Bone's running both.
That's right.
So I would like to see a Lava Hound and Inferno Dragon take home a tower or take home a title. I believe every single winner so far has been playing Expo, but no Lava Hounds have actually won yet. So I'm going for my
the
flying
dream.
tank.
That's the
Yeah,
dream.
That's exciting.
the air cow.
Inferno Dragon takes my heart as well. So again, Backstab is hurting me right now. My heart
Mind
goes for
versus the
Inferno
heart.
Dragon,
Yeah, it's
but my
definitely-
mind is telling
But
me
it's life.
Backstab.
It's worth
life.
mentioning but Brian RT has a ton of tournament experience in things like the Clan Royale League, Royale Premier League, a lot of these clan-on-clan formats. Reddit troopers can usually be found in them, and he is one of the strongest players in that clan and on those teams. I've watched him defeat some of the best players in the game in those events, so I'm not counting Brian RT out either.
And also,
Okay.
again, we have Mango, who is kind of our not as well known of the players, already knocking out Marcel P, one of the most known players so far. So
And I've
Pretty
seen
awesome.
Mango around, but I wish I could tell you more about it. But I have seen him in these tournaments in the same situation, these clan events, team events. So he's definitely someone who's a silverbacked veteran of the tournament scene.
awesome.
He's killing it. And this is the final time I'm going to remind you guys. Please send us your haikus because they make my day. Okay, I'm going to pull a Christian. Let's see if I can do this.
Okay.
Send us your haikus. They are super awesome. Just do it. Awesome. Yo, just do it now. Okay.
Hey, wow, there it is. Well done. Way
Better than yours.
Way better than my first time. That is right, guys. Send us those haikus using the hashtag #ClashNAOpen, and we will be reading them. Let us know also who you want to read them. We'll be reading them when we come back from the break. So now that we can get to those, let's go to a quick break. Coming up next, the semifinals. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
So exciting.
These are the rules of the duel. All duels must have appropriately epic music.
Clash Royale! Pick a fight with everyone! Clash Royale! It's got lightning and skeletons! Duel players in real time! Destroy towers in real time!
When your troops take a stand, now you've got the upper hand. Destroy the kingdom in the ground and clash!
Royale!
That was a rule of the duel, a most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale. These are the rules of the duel. Anything goes in the arena, and anything goes inside the goblin hut. Anything. A most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale. These are the rules of the duel. The grass in the arena must be properly cut. It's a full-time job. That was the rule of the duel. A most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale. These are the rules of the duel. The winner takes the loser's trophies. And their dignity. That was a rule of the duel. A most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale.
Welcome back, Clashers and Clashettes, to the official Supercell Clash Royale North American Open.
That is right. If you guys are just now tuning in, we have made it to the semifinals of Coronation Day number
great.
4. 4 twice. We are now down to just our top 4 players here, and they're moving on. We've got Backstab, T-Bone, Brian RT, and Mango.
What's your favorite here?
There was a lot of. I don't know if I would call it surprises, but definitely things that have happened that have been interesting in terms of exchanges and lines of play and whatnot. I think we've seen a lot of underdog matches, David versus Goliath kinds of things. I mean, I wouldn't call it that dramatic, but it's definitely interesting to see that these decks are facing off each other in more complicated ways than we maybe initially imagined. Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of variety because we have, I believe, Expo, but also Lava Hound
Yes.
and Giant Bowler decks and a lot of the Hog Lightning deck, of course, on the other side of the bracket, and of course Backstab still running that double Royal Giant. So
And we've got Minor Inferno.
and Minor is right, the most
Backstab
diverse.
and
So
Witch
many
Giant.
Diversity.
But enough of who we think. Christian L, you guys have seen a significant amount of
Yeah.
pretty
Oh,
high level
yeah.
tournament
Yeah.
play here.
You guys.
Yeah, what are you seeing in this? Who do you think's gonna win?
Well, no one's running Hog Freeze. Really sad about that. We haven't seen Freeze at all. Freeze is a...
Yeah, Freeze is actually one of those cards that's really good at the top of the ladder, but not so great in tournament
What's
play.
in tournament?
It is the only card, actually Rage and Freeze are the only card in the game that instead of scaling by hit points or damage, they scale with time. So a max level Freeze is like way better than a tournament cap Freeze. It's,
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a card you see it a lot in the ladder, but not always.
So we'll never see it.
We'll see it.
Quick reminder to all of you guys out there, our next broadcast is going to be taking place Sunday the 30th, and then Monday the 31st for Halloween.
Yeah.
Spooky.
Wednesday,
Bring your costume.
the 11th, all happening at 6 p.m., same place, same time. Yeah, we might be getting all costumed up here. Hopefully you guys are also costumed up. And then the Thursday, after that Wednesday broadcast, is actually going to be taking place at 8 p.m. So 2 hours different to give a little more West Coast.
Yeah, we've got
Openness.
3 more Thursday broadcasts, and it's going to be North American Open After Dark.
After dark, the PM. I mean, wait, it's all actually technically in PM.
Okay, so let's go to that bracket.
Yeah, let's take a look at the bracket right now. All right, this is what we've got up at the top again. Backstab, T-Bone, Brian RT, and Mango. And now we said for the heart, or for your mind, I guess it was Backstab.
Yes.
For you, Rainey. And we've got T-Bone for Rumham. Correct?
In my heart and mind and Lava Hound love and body, we're going with T-Bone. But of course, the bottom of the bracket's still very deadly. Like,
I'm going for Brian RT. I think Brian RT is the one to watch right
very
now.
sharp player.
I'm all about that backstab. That's
a sick name for sure.
That's such a good name.
Poor Mango. Hey, you know what? Somewhere there's an
But-
orange, there's a tangerine. They're all rooting for their buddy Mango.
Yeah.
They're all going for Mango. And hopefully, yeah.
Fruit crew.
Maybe we'll all get surprised tonight. Now, also, before the break, guys, we asked you guys to submit haikus to us.
And guess who
Yeah.
sent in our haiku?
Yeah, someone
for
sent us a
tonight?
haiku.
Drum roll, please.
It's gonna be Marcel P.
Found time to write it in between
He's like
getting bumped.
He's like thrown it, and he's like,
All right,
He'll be back. He'll be
guys.
back.
Now, for this experience, I want you all to count on your fingers the syllable and count very carefully, all right?
We're going to learn something about haikus
All right,
now.
Marcel P. I played 2 expos. Then I played only 1 expo.
You added an extra word.
Then
You did it
I
right.
played only one
He had an
expo.
extra
Then
syllable. It's
he
only-
said then played.
Then
He
played.
didn't say then I
Somebody
played.
check the
Only
Twitter.
one expo.
Then played only
I'm gonna give
one
it to
expo.
I'm gonna give it to Marcel.
Okay.
He's
He
a smart
deserves
guy.
this.
I'm
Give
gonna
him
go
a
back
win,
now.
Dang it.
I'm gonna go back and check the tweet.
We'll start it again. I believe
I'm
in
gonna
you.
check the tape.
I believe in you.
Now I
I
count.
counter it.
Now there we go.
Now I counter
I
it.
played
don't think
2
he
expos,
suffered
then
enough
played
this
only
week.
1 expo. Now I countered it. What I love about this is too is he's like giving a haiku of his life so far in the Clash.
Yeah.
Around North American Open.
The best art comes from your own pain.
yeah.
Marcel
that's
P
so
Ouch.
true.
is even playing mind games with me now.
Yeah.
I'm not even a competitor in the tournament.
Well played, Marcel P. This is going way beyond the meta. Now, let's go ahead and pull up the decks for our first semi-final match of Coronation Day number 3. It is Backstab versus T-Bone. Rumham, Rainey, walk us through these decks, and I guess since you guys are on opposite sides, to give us an argument for why one's going to win over the other.
So Backstab, I think, has some very great Royal Giant decks that he is playing. One thing that you need to really be careful of is the fact that Backstab is running Furnace, and that could potentially be a very big wrench in the system for T-Bone's Lava Hound deck. Not only based on the fact that he has a building to attract the Lava Hound in a different direction, but for the fact that Fire Spirits are chumpy cards that the Inferno Dragon is going to have a lot of problems getting past. And he has Skeleton Army on top of that, so I think Backstab X has a good deck matchup in that sense. Plus, Royal Giant gets very good, consistent damage on towers, and I think the safer choice is to always go with the Royal Giant.
I think the Inferno Dragon's gonna have a really good matchup against both of those Royal Giants. The real catch is, of course, can he win with an X-Bow against double Royal Giant? I would say no, but my boy T-Bone has already beaten Naruto Uzumaki in the round of 8, who was running double Royal Giant. Can he do it again?
Yeah. Now, okay, if you are these players, so I guess we'll go on the side of Backstab first. Which deck are you bringing first?
I would bring, if I was going first, I would probably bring, the Furnace deck.
Furnace?
Yes, I would bring the Royal Giant deck. I would bring the Furnace deck first. Because I think Furnace is very solid in terms of a card, very safe. You can really feel out. Okay, yep, there it is.
Wow,
I think it's perfect. It's perfect for scouting because it's a very safe drop. If they dropped an Expo, for example, you would not die instantly.
T-Bone's opening with his lovely old Lava Hound deck. I think I would have maybe opened with the Expo deck and just tried to play an Expo right off the bat and hoping my opponent doesn't have the Royal Giant. Steal that Expo game as soon as you can.
Ooh, Lava Hound taken up for the Inferno Dragon. Now notice that the Royal Giant got 3 shots and is 300 health down. That's already kind of, despite the fact that the Inferno Dragon was played, means that the defense was not necessarily as solid as T-Bone would have liked, but on the counterattack, T-Bone did a similar amount of damage, so they're pretty even.
Yeah. Now, Musketeer is low enough health that it will not threaten the tower. The tower will shoot it from a little bit longer range than the Musketeer's gun. Take it right out.
The Musketeer readies the shot and then dies before it can finish. Interesting fact, if you have any kind of slow or speed up for the tower slowing down or the Musketeer speeding up, the Musketeer will finish the shot.
That's a very good point. That used to be one of the best little lingering effects of poisons, that little tiny bit of slow would affect it. Ooh, wow. The Royal Giant has such a long range and targets buildings that he was able to shoot that tombstone from the river.
Uh-oh, Lava Hound is not protecting the Inferno Dragon, but I don't know. There's a big lightning, and that Royal Giant is going to go to town. Big question is, now you have 6 elixir down. How do you stop this Lava Hound push? You need to place your Mega Minion smartly so that it doesn't get taken out by the other Mega Minion. This Skeleton Army might be the card of choice. Arrows is going to wipe it out.
Yeah, so he has arrows there, so if he can just let he can just arrow him right as those lava pups come out, maybe that's why he felt really comfortable. Or, yeah, there it is. I mean, maybe that's why he felt comfortable kind of ignoring it, is because he had the ace in the pocket in order to take that thing out.
Still, fairly even trade, but in favor of T-Bone just a little bit. He's beginning to run away with it, and T-Bone, I mean, Backstab had to split up his damage on each of the towers, and you can see, take that difference in numbers, and it would be an even game, but no focus fire from Backstab. There's an aggressive Royal Giant drop, and Inferno Dragon is going to be the card to assist.
Best time. So there was 2 key things. The best time to drop the Royal Giants when your opponent just committed 7 elixir in the air. Great opportunity. The one Fire Spirit jumped and did just enough damage to the Inferno Dragon, but the Inferno Dragon took it down. I believe that, I'm so inconfident now with my numbers after the Fireball thing, but I think that the Lightning does 937 and the Inferno Dragon has 950 hit points. So just that little sliver, any amount of damage would be enough to take out the Inferno Dragon.
Game is coming down to the wire, but Lightning is on both players' hands. I actually think that playing the Furnace there, unless he's trying to find a health buffer to bait the Lightning strikes out, is going to be...
Lightning now.
I think he needs to do it.
Lightning now. What are you
He's got the elixir. Oh! Yeah, tough.
Okay.
Actually, Backstab was 1 step ahead. He was already at lethal with Lightning, whereas T-Bone had to do 2. And so when you're in that situation, you know that your opponent, as long as you set up a good enough defense, has to cycle to the Lightning. So you play cards that make it as difficult as possible for him to get any kind of swinging damage. You saw T-Bone tried to go in with a Miner to get that 1 swing to change the tide of the match, but stopped by the Musketeer, which is not usually the best answer for a Miner, but...
I also think, though, he had to cycle. I don't think he actually had the Lightning enhancer. Even though he had 6, he's going, what do I play? So he has to spend 4, which is not the cheapest card in your deck, right? To get out there and had to wait those painstaking few extra seconds to get back up to 6 and then lightning for the win.
Looking at the miner though, if you place him right next to your opponent's tower and he pops up, and yeah, that's the closest thing to him. How does his targeting work? Like, why did the musketeer distract him? Because it looked like he was just as close to the tower as the musketeer.
So typically, troops will prioritize other troops instead of the tower. If they're both right next to each other and have not acquired a target, typically the troop will take precedence, even to the point where if the troop is a little far away, the attacking troop will actually take a few steps towards the unit and attack it. So it's actually pretty lenient.
Okay, and that's something that's
more you know.
It's good for all troops in the game because obviously you want your attacking troops to hit things. Mine are sort of one of those few exceptions where you're really playing it to hit the tower and not other troops usually.
Gotcha.
Right, okay. So talk a little bit about switching lanes and deciding when to switch when you already have so much damage on one tower.
That was really tough. I think he saw a good opening. Okay, so Lava Hound was coming down the left lane, and he played Royal Giant going down the right lane. The reason why he switched lanes there was because the last time he played Royal Giant under the Lava Hound, what ended up happening was T-Bone put an Inferno Dragon behind the Lava Hound, did very good matchup, and ended up killing the Royal Giant, but then it's being tanked by the Lava Hound. By splitting it up, you're forcing the Lava Hound to be pretty much undefended down the other lane and becomes significantly less of a threat.
Okay.
It's the combination of the two, the synergy between the two cards that make them all the better.
I don't think he expected that to come down. Oh, wow.
Whoa.
A lot of skeletons just got killed by
So
those
much
arrows.
elixir.
There's an interesting choice. I'm not sure why T-Bone would want to miner the Tombstone of all things, but he knows something that we don't.
Royal Giant played in exchange for the Lava Hound, and we see the situation where the Lava Hound will actually protect cards played behind it, an interaction that gets very complicated to push past, and definitely think that the strategy to go here for Backstab is to separate the two. There we see it. Mega Beanie gets dropped, but it cannot be dropped further than the river.
Oh, wow, he missed the Inferno Dragon. Oops, indeed. Okay, two things. The reason why the Tombstone is so far up is to pull that Lava Hound over. You saw that zap. The zap was meant to target the Inferno Dragon and reset his heated up shot. But those can be a little tricky to catch because what you do is you're not actually targeting where the sprite is, you're targeting where the shadow is.
Yes.
Air units always look a little like they're one
really?
tile off. The
It's like
shadow
fish in
on
water.
Right. The shadow on the ground is where they truly are on the grid.
Whenever I try to lightning fish in water, it's always tough.
Yeah. You just kill every single thing in the way.
I was like, dang it. Fishing game, I'm sorry.
So here we go. Triple legendary there on T-Bone's deck, where Backstab is playing a much more modest and free-to-play accessible deck there with just a log in it. Hey, remember when people were really upset about opening log? Log used to not be so good, and people were like, oh, I got my first legendary, but it's a log. Now log is one of the most played cards. He did it again!
Yeah,
He zapped the tower a second time. Oops.
Fish in the water.
Backstab, you're better than this.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a greedy play as well. You know that, okay, it's, 60 damage on the tower if you zap it? You can make those small optimizations, but at what cost, right?
Yeah. I think that just goes to experience. Backstab is a very good player, but who has experience playing consistent against Inferno Dragon? Not a super popular card, and I think it just, if you don't have those practices, it's easy to make one or two tile mistakes.
Those pups go.
He did it a third time!
Oh, wow. Oh.
I think Backstab might be on tilt right here.
On tilt is a good way to put it. Gonna be 1-1 in 3 seconds here. Man, what a tough one to lose.
There it is, T-Bone tying it up 1-1 against Backstab. Again, one of these two players will be moving on to the finals, playing for $2,000 and the chance to move on to the arena battles.
Good news, well, hey, good news for old Rummy Hammy that T-Bone takes a game and goes to a critical game 3, but better news for Backstab, Inferno Dragon is out of the match, already won.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about trying to aim pesky zaps on shadowed air units.
Done.
Done.
What's his strategy now?
Breeze.
Well, let's see, T-Bone here is rocking.
I thought you had like a list of his strategy.
Yes.
He just like sends, sends you.
Here's where T-Bone is in trouble, because we're looking at an Expo deck for his second deck, and Backstab is running double Royal Giant. So T-Bone has an uphill battle, gotta win with an Expo. He's put it off, he's played Lava Hound games 1 and 2, hoping to put off the inevitable, but now he's gotta face the music and try to somehow shoot down a tower.
Rainey, when talking about Inferno Dragon and Inferno Tower, when do you want to, if you have like a zap or a lightning or a way to stop that damage so it kind of has to revamp, Does it matter when you? Is there like a beautiful time to do
Yes.
it? Is it right in the beginning? Is it like what's that
Yes.
magic number?
It's definitely in the middle before it charges up to the critical zones, right? Because it does like 30 damage a tick and it goes up
There's a max.
incrementally.
Is there a max?
There is a max. I
Yeah.
think the Inferno Dragon's max is like 355.
It's crazy.
Something like that. Inferno Dragon is, Inferno Tower is somewhere in the thousands. Is that right?
It's confusing because it's DPS versus damage. I
Oh, yeah,
believe
you're right.
the max of an Inferno Dragon does 350 damage per shot, but it's every
crazy.
0.4
Yeah,
seconds, so
yeah.
it gets pretty. It takes about 4.5 seconds though to warm up to that point, and of course that starts all over if you zap it. But of course, hey Backstab, you gotta hit them zaps. Zaps actually gotta hit the card.
Yeah. To put it into perspective, made up numbers, right? The Inferno Tower, for example, will do, and the dynamic is the same, the Inferno Tower will do to a giant maybe half its health in the first kind of 5 seconds, and then the second half of its health in like 1 second, right? So you want to zap it before it gets to the point where it's the second half of the health.
We see that a lot with
Zapping
Inferno.
too soon actually is not a wise.
It's not terrible, but it's not optimal,
Okay.
right? And of course, when these games are coming down to just 100 points or so,
You want
between-
optimal.
right? Backstab playing very, very cautious. I like how Backstab is not committing a Royal Giant to the board. He knows that he doesn't need Royal Giant to attack. T-Bone needs the Expo to win the game. He's played Skeleton Army and Archers, splitting them in both lanes to sort of force T-Bone to go one way or the other here. Ooh,
There it is.
the log actually betrayed him. The log knocked the Royal Giant out of Inferno Tower range, and now he can just shoot
no
from
way.
outside the range there.
No way.
Still a great opportunity to drop an Expo for what it's worth, maybe in the left lane.
The fact that one guard was alive mitigated a lot of the mistake that T-Bone had, but still this Royal Giant is going to town. Look at that. Oh, it's so
Boink.
slow. Gets one more.
Only about, what was that, 159 damage a shot? I was trying to do the math. I think he had 1690 and went down to 1531. So it's actually not as powerful per shot, but the huge hit point pool of the Royal Giant means that if you don't have an answer for it, it just takes off. It's actually a lot like Expo in that way. That Expo, you can get it down to half or a third health, but then it's still
If
gonna
it's still
choke
gonna,
your
it's
tower.
still alive.
And we see here the challenge of the Expo. I mean, look at that. Both 6-cost cards paired up against each other. Royal Giant swaggers away with 60% or more health.
over half
yeah,
health
it looks
and
like
he's in
70% health. So even if this Inferno Tower takes it here, at what cost? He just spent 11 elixir. I don't know if he even needed to play, for example, that Mega Minion. He could have just let it time out.
yeah.
Trying to fireball the tower. I don't know if that hit, actually.
The Inferno Tower is now off the board. Maybe that's why he was so anxious to kill it. Oh, because there's already another one. He was probably so anxious to kill it because, of course, he wants to be able to free up the Royal Giant to attack. I don't know if I don't make the same mistake though that your clanmate did and get too aggressive with those Royal Giants because it only takes one Expo to take down a whole tower. Whereas I don't think Royal Giant has that level of offensive upside.
I think Backstab feels safe because he has Tombstones galore.
That's a very good point. Tombstone's going to cover in the 6.
Yeah, and he's just going to keep cycling and positioning back and forth between those two spots because that's the hardest to spell and gain value as well. See that Fireball now committed to the tower rather than Tombstone, which means that Backstab probably is just going to have that Tombstone up for all of eternity.
Tombstone, I'm sorry, T-Bone's actually not too far behind. It's only a couple hundred points of damage there. Mostly because he's been able to just slam value Fireball. Oh, he did it again!
Oh.
Now it's T-Bone's turn to make fatal errors. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. He's still loosely in range, just barely. Oh, that Ice Spirit, the 2 seconds freeze allowed the Inferno Tower to warm up there.
Yeah, it's a very precarious situation. Actually, the Skeletons are tanking up for the Mega Minion, and it's going to get in there and do a lot of damage to the Ice Golem. And the Skeletons get slowed up. There's a crossbow being placed defensively, trying to clear away the Tombstones.
2 Tombstones, yeah.
And the Royal Giant will have to come deep into enemy territory to take down that crossbow. But there's no reason that Backstab needs to be attacking
I don't think
anyways,
he's going to.
because that Expo is not going to be in range of anything valuable.
He's in triple Fireball range, I believe, or at worst, just add a log or a zap. So at this point, the gameplay is do not let Expo beat you. Or
Yes.
even 2 Expo.
Or having your opponent play 2.
Royal Giant's kind of bossing both of them, though, to be honest. He's going to take this one out by the river just as the other one sort of times out.
And that's really all Backstab needs to do. You only need to take down the Expo that is in range of your tower.
And he just wants to stay as close to 10 elixir as humanly possible while dropping ground-based units to soak. He's 1 elixir away now from getting out another Royal Giant.
Oh, wow, that was...
He was on the cycle. You could tell that he was looking at it, really wanted to get the right card in there.
Yeah, he had the zap too, so that would have been a saving grace.
The nice part is this is going to force T-Bone to spend some elixir there to stop the punishing Royal Giant, and that slows down T-Bone's ability to continually set up Expos, giving Backstab a break to set up another Tombstone.
Backstab looks like he's got this.
One more Fireball.
Game.
6 elixirs, all he has to do is maybe put another Tombstone down, Archers, anything like that, and then Fireball for the victory. Oh, opts to go. That's just pretty smart, actually. Opts to go with the Royal Giant just to prevent.
Just in case.
Yeah, prevent any scary Expo from coming down.
There you have it. Backstab picking up the second victory, winning with both of his decks, and moving on as our first finalist of Coronation Day number 4. Congratulations, Backstab. Congratulations.
I love Royal Giant. I mean, I remember, and Rainey remembers because this is how long we've been casting together, that when Royal Giant came out, it was hands down the worst card in the game at its release. Absolutely.
Man.
It was part of. Yeah, let's watch the replays and we can talk about it later.
No, let's talk about the Royal Giant. Here's a replay of said card.
Royal Giant doing a lot of work for Backstab X.
All the
and
lightning.
This, I mean, the fact that, so the first time he actually did this play twice. One of them he lightning without the assistance of the furnace. The second time, that one Fire Spirit changes the dynamic of the push. The last health point is always the one that counts.
Yep.
The existence of that Inferno Dragon compared to not. Biggest difference.
There is that knockback in the log there.
Yeah. And then what happens here is just out of range. Royal Giant outranges every defensive tower in the game, save Mortar and Expo, the siege buildings. So being able to be knocked back out of the range of the Inferno Tower and just shoot it from far away was critical. That's 5 elixir that was spent and didn't do anything at that point.
Ooh, talk a little bit more about that log Royal Giant mistake. How do you see something like that coming? It's such a little thing, but it really kind of hurt him there.
It's a kind of new interaction because Log didn't used to knock back Royal Giant. That was something that happened at the last game update, the last patch to the game. So with Royal Giant also being kind of a new addition to the meta game because of all of the Expo decks, it's possible there's just not a lot of experience of like, okay, I need to Inferno Tower, but oh no, there's Skeleton Army. I actually like how Backstab put him in a bad position. Skeleton Army's coming, you have to log the Skeleton Army, but to do so is going to knock back the Royal Giant, hopefully safely out of range.
Whew, mind games indeed. Let's go ahead now and pull up the bracket as we now have one of our finalists. That is going to be moving on. It's Backstab. Now up next, Brian RT versus Mango. Now I am rooting for Brian RT to take the whole thing, but in this just matchup alone between Brian RT and Mango, who is the player to watch? Who is the one that you guys think is going to take this?
I think that just purely from a known player standpoint, I would go with Brian RT, but Mango has been, I mean, he defeated Marcel P,
and he
right?
made
Which
it
is no
here.
joke.
Yeah.
It's no joke.
Look at their decks. See what's going on there.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a tough one to call. As with most of the top 4s in the Coronation days, all these players that make it this far are really adept at doing what they do. So I'm going to take a look at Brian RT's deck.
Okay.
Right? It's going to be Hog Lightning and Expo. So we're familiar with Expo, and we're somewhat familiar with Hog Lightning. I think that Brian RT plays Hog Lightning really, really well, able to overcome Bowler, which Mango happens to have.
Okay.
All right, Rumham,
What do you
Mango's
think about
deck.
Mango?
Ooh, man, Mango has 2 decks that are pretty comfortable against the Hog Lightning deck. I think the Expo, I mean, actually, Mango has some pretty strong matchups here because the Giant Bowler deck is going to pair up really well against the Expo deck. And of course, we saw how tough it is. Even though Brian RT pulled it out, how many times can that Hog Rider win an unfavorable matchup before going down? I think Mango might even be favored in this match because of the deck choices. I agree Brian RT is probably the better technical player, but it's really hard to overcome these 70-30 matchups, right, where you're not really favored to win that often.
Okay,
Now,
this will be interesting.
again, same question. Which deck do you bring first? So if you're Brian RT, what do you think is either his strongest or the one that he really wants to place against Mango?
I think you want to start with, I would say start with your Hog Rider deck because your Expo, you already know. I feel like the Expo is a worse matchup than the Hog Rider matchup.
All right, well, let's see which ones they bring, ladies and gentlemen. Our final semi-final event for Coronation Day number 4. Will Brian RT or Mango be moving on to the finals? So join Backstab. Let's find out.
This is the Hog Lightning deck out of Brian RT and the Giant Bowler out of Mango. So this will be a pretty tough matchup for Brian RT out of the gate. Or actually, I'm sorry, this is actually, well, actually both are going to be pretty tough matchups for Brian RT. Worth noting, the only Ice Wizard in the entire top 8.
Oh, wow. He didn't do
Ice
the
Wizard,
Hog jump.
very, very strong card.
The Hog Rider didn't actually do the jump on that corner edge of the map, and so it went all the way over to that tombstone on kind of the left end of the middle field for Mango, and that's something that you actually really need to make sure you do. Hog jumping is very, very important, and if you're a Hog Rider player, absolutely critical to your skill set.
Double slowing effect. You've got the Ice Wizard and of course the freeze out of the Ice Spirit is really, wow, that giant only got one punch even though he was played right at the river and it didn't seem like there'd be a lot of great answers. The Musketeer is far more deadly though. A Musketeer at full health does, I believe, about 900 damage to a tower, and even though that Musketeer got hit a little bit by a log, it was able to still do a significant chunk of damage.
Bowler comes across the river, and the Mega Minion will be able to make short work of it. Air superiority, again, that we see so often. Hog Rider actually makes it to the tower and gets 2 swings.
Wow.
That's a big opening, but that's only catching up to the damage that Mango has already done. We're starting to see why it's tough to play Hog Rider in this matchup.
I actually think it might be better for Mango to not play the Tombstone in the center, but actually use it reactively against the Hog Rider, and actually try to play it in front, because as you see what happened there, the skeletons are slower than the Hog Rider, so as soon as that tower goes down, yeah, 4 skeletons pop out, but if they're getting outrun by the Hog Rider, kind of what's the point?
Right.
You put it directly in front of the tower, you make yourself a little vulnerable to log, but at least those skeletons are going to completely shred the Hog Rider once they spawn.
I'm pretty sure they also, don't they block him from even getting a swing because he's trying to like move around him? And
It can, but yeah, if it extends the pathing even at all, you're getting extra tower shots in and it can really add up. Once the skeletons to follow up behind the giant to add a little bit of extra threat behind that. The reason why the princess is played so far away is he doesn't want to be vulnerable to spells like lightning. I think lightning is the last card in that deck, and it is. So he doesn't want to give him a good lightning with an Ice Wizard, Princess, Mega Minion, whatever. Oh, great log. 1 swing, 2 swings. Is he gonna 30? Oh, he doesn't.
Bowler.
Good old Bowler. Having a lot of fun. Oh, now here's the reason why the Princess was played so far away is you don't want to give up easy arrows either. Arrows, of course, does a not great amount of damage to tower, but does kill the Princess. Whoa, what a lightning!
Oh, doesn't get a swing with the Hog Rider, but still, Hog Lightning is kind of the big kind of coup de grace move that Brian RT has, and he needs to execute that very soon.
Wow. Oh no, he meant for that giant to catch the Princess, right?
Yes, I believe so. And the giant is going to make its way across the river. If somehow Brian RT can stop this giant, oh, it's looking tough. Zapped away is the skeleton army. Meanwhile, the Musketeer is doing a lot of damage, but actually Brian RT is not concerned about that side. Log might be the big thing that changes up the push, and I think he's going to defend it. This is going to provide Brian RT another opportunity. I think what he needs to look out for is punish a drop by Mango. I actually don't like the fact that he had to play his Hog Rider there in that situation.
Oh,
but
great,
86
but a log
health.
win.
No, where's the defense?
The swing!
Log.
He has log. There. Oh my! How does Brian RT do this?
That close.
I have no idea how Brian RT does this. Time and time again against a bowler, he plays.
Yeah, he's a hog. He's just a Hog Rider master.
Are you a fan of Hog Rider, Christian?
Yeah.
Never played the card?
Never seen it.
Huh.
Yeah. I love his scream. When he screams across, it's Hog Rider! It's just like, oh, it's my favorite thing. Yeah, here, check it out.
Yeah, buddy.
He let us borrow it. He's a great guy, super nice, really into Pilates.
How
You're
much
holding
damage per
them the
swing?
wrong way. Yeah,
Oh,
there
well,
we go.
you know what? This
That
side,
looks way more
This
effective.
is the side that actually cracks the tower, I would argue.
Yeah,
That's true.
The other side's the skull cracker.
It's designed to.
It might be a little more damage.
Anyways.
Don't worry, Hog Riders only attack
Yeah, no,
buildings.
yeah. You're no threat.
It's very true.
So we saw a little bit of Ice Wizard in that deck. We don't see him a lot. Was it a plus, or should he have used something else?
I would say Ice Wizard is more of a victim of the current meta because a lot of the
Yeah.
popular decks he doesn't match up so great against. Ice Wizard actually takes 2 hits to kill skeletons. So he's not like maybe as good at clearing out
Really?
swarms. Yeah, Princess will kill them all in one shot, but he does like 4 health
Back
less
to
than
those
the
noodles.
Right, it's just right there.
Yeah.
So he actually takes 2 shots to kill him. So that he's not great against all the skeleton arms, not great against guards. He was much better when cards like Minion Horde and Barbarians were very, very popular. But when was the last time you saw a squad of Barbs?
Nope, not at all.
Never.
Ice Wizard also operates really well against big bodies. And so that's actually something that is very worth it because they move so slow. Imagine if you put an Inferno Tower and you have an Ice Wizard assisting it, things like Giant, Bowler, Royal Giant, all of those attack slow,
they
they
just
move
stop.
slow. Yeah, really, really just, it's almost like they're going backwards.
All right, Brian RT now up 1-0 against Mango. If he picks up this victory, he will be moving on to the finals to join Backstab. Let's see if he can take it, or will Mango be able to do it?
All right, Expo in the middle. And it looks like Brian RT will play the Mega Minion.
Brian RT, even though, I mean, I was totally wrong. I really thought that Hog Lightning deck was, I mean, that he was going to get stopped by the Bowler. We have seen Giant Bowler perform very, very well against Expo. So again, he's going to have to kind of overcome a bad matchup, but this is showing that technical play is really skilled. We call them, what, like 70-30 matchups, like you would expect to win 70% of the time with a Giant Bowler deck, but that means 3 out of 10 times you're going to lose, and Brian RT knows exactly what to do to squeeze out those wins.
I mean, if the theme of the last Coronation Day was Cold War, today's theme is definitely overcoming impossible odds, right? And I think that both Brian RT and Backstab and even T-Bone in many ways have done that.
If Brian and Backstab meet in the finals, we'll have a new first letter.
That's right, we're going way before.
Yeah, right, the alphabet's getting all mixed up.
I would be glad if either of them get there, because then our grade letter is going up.
But check out Mango. Mango has a significant, I mean, because that Giant was such a good counter to the Expo, look at this, 4 elixir advantage right now for Mango. That allows him to play this bowler almost for free. Like, he gets the bowler on the board, and look, they're about at the same elixir again.
Yeah.
It depends on how much he can get out of this free bowler, but presuming that Brian RT's Inferno Tower gets stifled by something, a zap, lightning, whatever, this could go very, very well for Mango. This is the opportunity for Mango to convert his elixir advantage into actual damage on the tower.
I'm actually 2 ways about playing the Expo as defense of that bowler. That means that he will have Inferno Tower for sure for the next Expo that he plays to stop the Giant, but also it's not as effective as an Inferno Tower in terms of stopping the bowler from doing damage. Obviously, Brian RT didn't take too much, but it's just an interesting observation.
And I think when you have an elixir advantage, it becomes even more important that you don't leak elixir at all, because you are seeding your advantage right then. Right. And Mango's been doing that a little bit. He keeps hitting 10, and even though he's playing something within maybe a half elixir or so, that keeps adding up, and your 4 elixir advantage can wither down to 2 elixir, 3 elixir, or 3 elixir, 2 elixir, and then maybe back to even. We saw that yesterday, actually.
Brian RT actually just lets the Musketeer go, and he's trying to set up a crossbow just in time, but it's just between the Tombstone, the Bowler, and then the Giant. I don't know if Brian RT has the cards at hand to really deal with this. I mean, we're 3 minutes into the game, and he's done little to no damage to Mango's tower.
Aside from the fireball hitting, there hasn't been any. I'm surprised that Mango there didn't use the lightning on the Expo and the tower. Maybe it was placed just in a corner where it was out of range.
Inferno Tower is going to tag onto the Tombstone on the other side. There is a big lightning hurting all the structures. Musketeer gets taken down, but now there's a Giant on the left side that I don't know if Brian RT has the available cards to deal with.
As we were talking about the wet noodle damage of an Expo, we saw right there, it actually has to 3-hit each individual skeleton.
Yes.
2 shots of an Expo is not enough to kill a flimsy third of an elixir card.
Defended pretty well. Oh, gosh, play the Tombstone. No, has to play the Giant, but it could get burned down by the Inferno Tower, and now Lightning has to go over to the other side. That's going to make the spell cycling less efficient for Mango. There is the Lightning. Expo has a little bit of health left, but the big problem is that Lightning actually does so much damage to the actual health of the Expo.
Can't ignore the Bowler, though. Oh, when he does that was really close. That tower health is so low that even 1 or 2 Boulder rolls would put it in range of a Lightning.
Yeah, and I think this Ice Column might not be enough. It's going to slow it down.
I think it's enough. Whoa!
Just enough.
Now, we talk about knowing the exact mechanical plays. Brian RT knew the exact square, the exact timing in order to counter. That's a +3 elixir trade right there. That's a 2 for 5.
That's the kind of thing that's keeping Brian RT alive right now, but still not looking good, because no matter how much of an elixir advantage you get, if you can't actually do damage to your opponent's tower, you're not going to be able to win the game. That's the only way you can push the game forward, is actually doing damage to towers.
You're right. I mean, I think the best thing Brian RT can hope for right now is a draw. There's no way he's going to really be able to do 2,200 damage in the next minute. So I think what he's just trying to do is not take any damage on his tower and maybe, just maybe, survive. But I'm pretty sure a lightning cycle.
He doesn't have enough elixir to stop the Giant on the left, and he still has to deal with the right.
And lightning takes the game right here on the left side.
I think Mango took it back 1-1, and it's exactly like we talked about. Expo was so tough to get past the Giant, the Bowler, the Tombstone, and then even once those are cleared, you still have to deal with a Musketeer drop maybe, or even a Mega Minion hovering over your Expo. And then the Lightning on top of that. Everything in that deck seems to stop Siege from really doing its job well.
Okay, what do you think the VIP card for that game was? What stood out?
I mean, it's tough because it's actually sort of like they're the dynamic duo of
Right.
Giant and Bowler. Okay, so actually this is a great concept we can talk about real fast here before we go into game 3.
Ooh.
Redundancy is one of the most important things in deck building. Redundancy means having multiple cards in your deck that do similar effects, have similar roles.
Okay.
In that
Okay.
case, Brian RT, Mango needed things that block an Expo, usually something with high health, good range, etc. Tombstone, Bowler, and Giant all sort of serve the same role as anti-Expo stifling. What that allowed him to do was comfortably play one of the cards, and if Expo comes down, you've got a lot of cards in your deck that can counter that.
Yeah.
And in that case, that's how he was able to build up these offensive pushes while not being vulnerable. Think about decks that only have Zap going up against a deck that has Skeleton Army, Goblin Barrel, lots of cards that you
stuff.
might want to zap.
Sure.
We're seeing a lot of these decks running Zap and Log and Arrows because they want redundant effects against low health swarms. And in that time, all of those big health anti-Expo cards really pulled it out for Mango.
All right, well, right now, Brian RT and Mango are both tied up. They now have to win with these decks. The first person who does will be moving on to the finals. Face off against Backstab.
See the two decks here. We have Mango's actually playing this very defensive Siege deck. It's really just minor Princess Log and Arrows in terms of things that are reasonably going to hit the tower. Skeleton Army, Mega Minion, Inferno Tower, and Ice Spirit round the deck out. Brian RT, of course, still on the Expo deck.
Actually, I think the Inferno Tower was a bad answer to the Expo because
here
now
it
the Inferno
goes.
Tower is really healthy. You've played all your elixir to try to damage the Expo, and Brian RT had more than enough time to gather up the defenses to stop the push.
wow.
Skeleton Army gets a few swings, but still the damage has been done. 1.4k on Mango's left side, and not a good look.
What's going to be really interesting to, I think, look for is that Log did miss, I think, maybe 2 or 3 skeletons, which then
Yes.
allowed the Expo to go down a little bit earlier. It'll be interesting if it comes down to just a game of inches here.
Yeah.
That could have been it.
That absolutely, you could argue that the game was decided in the
Right
first
there.
minute because
Oh,
of those
man.
little things.
Right.
But you're right. Oh no, that's not what Brian RT
Fireball on a
necessarily wants to do.
princess.
That's not only 4 elixir to 3 elixir, but the princess already got a shot off, so you're down an elixir and took 140 to the tower for your attempt. Whoa, the Ice Spirit doubles back.
I'm coming!
That's actually good though, because it froze the miner, and when the miner came out of the freeze, it started attacking those guards instead. Saved a little bit of damage. The reason why in the first exchange, Mango played the Inferno Tower in the middle is because of all the guards up at the river. The Inferno Tower would have been often a worse situation. That time, with guards defending the miner and only Ice Golem to play in front of the Expo, Inferno Tower at the river was a great counter.
Had to play the Expo into the Inferno Tower and did not earn any damage off of that, but still, just like in the last game for Brian RT, Mango doesn't seem to have a fantastic answer to getting damage. A little bit different because Miner is one of those things that is a little bit guaranteed, right? You play X amount of miners and you will win the game sometime in overtime.
Right, assuming they connect, and that's why we've seen so many cards like Skeleton Army be very, very strong. Oh no, Logs, I think already off. Oh, he just drew right back into it. But again, a few Skeletons happen to survive and do a little bit there.
The Freeze needs to protect the Expo, and it's going to be Ice Golem. What a key card. I mean, talk about just right there. Ice Golem is earning its value. 2 elixir to really, this damage that the Expo is doing to the tower, that's 2 elixir spent to gain that.
I think Mango's really got to figure out a new strategy here very soon because he only has 15 seconds left, and that tower is within Fireball plus Log range. And I don't know, I think he can do it.
There's the Fireball, there's the Log, and now there's only 5 seconds for Mango to figure out something to push that tower down, and I don't think he'll make it. Brian RT moves on to the finals. What an interesting turn of events.
That's right. So now, Rumham, we are going to have the bees. We're going to have one bee is going to be our winner for today's Coronation Day number 4 event.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting matchups. I mean, Brian RT bringing the Hog Lightning to the finals. We saw that in Coronation Day 2 in the finals as well, so pretty strong. Oh, I'd like to actually see the replays of that match where we see the decks for the finals.
Let's do it. Let's go to the replay of the Hog Rider right now.
Hog Rider is such an interesting card. There we see that Hog Rider jumping across the river towards the 2 tombstones, but the Log takes down both of them, and the Hog Rider is able to connect to the tower despite the fact that the Bowler is played. Getting 2 swings is a lot of value.
Right here with the Expo setup, you can see this is actually a really key thing for Brian RT. He had such a faster cycle deck. Again, the Mega Minion, the Log, the Ice Golem, they're so cheap that it allowed him to actually watch this. He's going to get back to his Ice Golem before Mango gets back to his Inferno Tower.
Wow.
Yeah, and really the fact that the Ice Golem was able to tank the crossbow or tank the Mega Minion just for that small amount of time means that the Expo could turn then onto the tower.
Yeah.
And do a lot of damage.
Now, since we're probably going to be seeing the Hog Rider jumping thing like you were talking about, shall we go ahead and take it to the art corner?
I think so.
So I've been looking forward to Rainey's drawings all night.
All right, here we go.
Art corner time. So today's lesson is going to be about Hog Rider.
Love this. Today's lesson, kids.
Today's lesson is going to be about Hog Rider and also defensive structure placement because they kind of go hand in hand. So on this picture, we have the blue side, we have the red side, we also have these green circles that are showing up really poorly on the camera. Let's turn that into dirty brown. Let's do brown right here.
Oh yeah, there it is. It's like
You see
invisible
that?
ink, you know?
You see that now?
Curse you, green
A
screens.
little bit better. So normally you want to play the Hog Rider kind of at the edge of the map in this corner and then play another card there. That's that small dot here. You play another card right next to the Hog Rider so it pushes that Hog Rider into the wall, and as the Hog Rider goes across, it'll jump diagonally across the river. When it does that, first tower placed here. Now I have 2 lines demonstrating how far away it is. Typically, the 3 tile away from the closer crown tower and 4 tile away from the river is the perfect spot to put a tower because when the Hog Rider comes across and gets attracted by that building, it will get shot at by 2 towers. So that's where you would normally want to play your turret. But it's marked with an X because that spot, if you place your turret here and you have the Hog Rider jump in the manner that I have drawn out in this picture, it will actually be pushed far enough away that it'll ignore the defensive structure placed in the middle and it'll go straight to your crown tower and do a ton of damage. The correct placement is down here on the blue side. There's a little circle indicating that. It is 2 tiles away from the tower that it's closest to, and 4 tiles away from the river, puts it close enough to the tower that even if you jump the Hog Rider, it will go for the defensive structure instead.
Well, there you guys go. You are now all better players thanks to Rainey and his art corner. I'm going to go ahead and save this and send this to my mom and tell her that I wrote
Yeah,
it.
perfect. Now
You're just going to plagiarize?
Oh, yeah.
You should see.
Don't
you
learn
should see
from us.
Christian's mom's fridge. I mean, it's Starry Night. It's
Mom, I made all these for you. She's like, you're such an artist.
Okay, and here's the bracket that you also made up.
That's
for
right,
your-
yeah.
for
Look
your
at my
mom.
bracket that I created. Here we go. Backstab and Brian RT are in the finals. These 2 players are battling out again, first place, taking home not only $2,000, but that chance to move on to the arena battles where 16 players will go. After the arena, 8 will go to the crown duels where there will be 1 player who will win $15,000 and that trip to Supercell HQ.
So cool. Okay. Who's it gonna be?
All right, yeah. So I thought it was Brian RT, so he's in.
Drum roll.
But you guys are both saying Backstab, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. When
one
Royal
that
Giant
starts with
first
a
came
B.
out, worst card in the game. And I remember when streaming like YouTube videos being like, this card sucks, why you play this card? I go, it's really cool mechanically. It's a neat card.
Yeah.
It's a big tanky thing, shoots buildings, got a long range, and then with one change, one number got increased by 1. It became the most deadly, scary card in the game for several months until people started to learn to adapt against it, change the decks around. I love seeing the return of Royal Giant. I've got a root personally
Sure, of course.
for Backstab.
Okay.
Something interesting is Ron Fan and I have scoured through the balance changes of the times, kind of gone back in history and looked at all of that stuff. And in our research, the Royal Giant actually received many buffs to its hit points, to its damage, to
its
numerous
beard.
things, to its beard.
Yeah.
It wasn't until that range increase hit that all of that started mattering a lot.
Gotcha.
Before the range increase, they shot stats at it left and right, and it just was not played. And then that range buff came in and everything changed.
Interesting factoid, all 4 decks are running Mega Minion and the Log.
Yeah, Log's so good.
Speaking of things changing over time, honestly, Log was in fact, Log was so underrated and so many people wanted that card to be better that there's a hashtag, love the Log, right? To give the Log some love.
That's awesome.
2 balance updates later, Log is, according to the top 100 decks, the most played card
Wow.
in the game.
Holy
and we're
snap.
seeing it here in the finals.
Where does Ice Spirit fall on that, do you know?
I believe 2nd or 3rd. It's also quite up there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I kind of want to see you do a log impression. Honestly.
He even got the proud jacket.
Hashtag love the
You're
log.
welcome.
There we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is the finals. Backstab versus Bryant, 0-0. Let's see who will go up.
Spirit
gonna
Hog
take
Rider is going to
it?
be the opening card, but between Skeleton Army and the Furnace, not going to make it through there.
Just a reminder too, we are playing now a best of 5, so these players have to win 3 times now.
It's crazy.
Now, Royal Giant versus Hog Rider is actually a matchup that I think is a lot more interesting. You're racing with one beatdown card against another beatdown card. Royal Giant in many ways is kind of just the more expensive ranged version of the Hog Rider. And I think that typically in matchups like these, kind of like Giant Poison versus Giant Three Musketeer, the higher elixir cost card usually wins out.
Little efficiency error there. I think Backstab, you probably want that arrows to hit the tower as well. You never know if that extra 100 damage is going to matter.
Did Ice Spirit just jump the log, or does log not actually kill Ice Spirit?
The
Log
Ice
will
Spirit
kill
can
Ice Spirit.
jump.
Wow, he just
jump the log,
jumped the log.
Yeah, quite the Olympic jumper. Skeleton Army is going to be so good here against that Hog Rider. It's really it's going to be up to Brian RT to start playing that log a little in advance. You almost want to play it as a pre-fire before you actually even see the Skeleton Army. Because if you pause and wait for the card to cast, Skeleton Army can get hundreds of damage in prior to actually.
Especially because when you're playing it defensively too, they drop right on top of the card. So immediately after their deploy time is finished, they just all take turns swinging at the Hog.
Very accurate placement by Backstab there. That is the exact most central square that you can play the Musketeer while it'll still go onto the left side. Waited till the Princess walked just in range and was able to take it off, but still go towards the tower that he wanted to go towards.
Oh, interesting. He's going to try to fight Skeleton Army with Skeleton Army, but log is the answer. Actually, he's going to get 2 swings. 1 swing, fine.
And actually,
2-1.
Another little minor efficiency thing there. If Backstab had waited just an extra second or two, the tower might have been able to lock onto the Hog Rider and get an extra shot or 2 in and prevented that.
Yes.
Every little point of damage matters. You can tell how close this can get.
Misses the tower again with the arrows, and now the Royal Giant makes it across. Take a look at this ice, which is slowing down the Royal Giant. So slow. Hog Rider on the other side. Didn't jump. Still going to have to go across to the furnace. If you look at the tiles, it's not exactly 3-4, but at least if it's 3 away, it'll have that effect.
Brian Ortiz changed his cycle up a little bit now. If you notice that instead of actually trying to log with the Hog Rider, he just made sure to have the Princess down in advance. The Princess already being on the board, she could clear out the Skeleton Army theoretically. Oh, what a lightning!
Big lightning. Wow. Has to play the Skeleton Army in late response, but still you see how effective that card is. That was a Hog Rider that should have gotten 3 swings off, but because Skeleton Army was played, really mitigated the damage.
Backstab has a little bit of an elixir advantage. Leaking a little bit there, but he has a little bit of an elixir advantage still. The important thing is it actually lets him get a free furnace down, but he's really got to find a good, powerful opening for his Royal Giant to come through. Wow.
Again, the lightning, and there's no Skeleton Army. It's a little bit late.
2 swings.
I mean, talk about momentum, right? Each time the log is coming faster and faster and faster, and the lightning is opening more opportunities. But I think Brian RT is.
Oh no!
I think Brian RT is having to pay his price for throwing out lightnings that often, and that Royal Giant gets up and does a good bit of damage.
Just like that.
Backstab wasted his log there. He expected a Skeleton Army, but he expected it just a little too soon and ended up firing that too early. And oh no, I think. Oh, no, okay, the lightning won't kill it, but a lightning plus a log should kill it, or of course the lightning plus Hog Rider here.
Plays the log in advance to make sure. Oh,
There it is!
Perfect combo. I actually think Brian RT played that really, really well.
Yes, absolutely.
Hog Lightning is something where if you continuously play a back-to-back, you can start to gain an elixir disadvantage, because oftentimes, well, the Hog Rider is 4 elixir that never does any damage to any
It doesn't
troop.
take anything off.
Yes, it does not remove any elixir from the board. Lightning as well is actually tough to justify. You saw him lightning a furnace, and then the tower. That's spending 6 elixir to remove 4 at best, right? So eventually you're gonna have to pay for your sins, right? And that happened with the Royal Giant drop.
If you're Brian, do you play the same deck again next time?
Well, I mean, the weird thing is that it's because Backstab's playing double Royal Giant, it's almost like it doesn't matter because you know you're playing against a Royal Giant deck. I think the question is actually more in Backstab's court of which of his 2 different Royal Giant decks might match up better against this. Like, for example, he might have rather had his Tombstone variant there, because at least if Tombstone gets lightninged,
There's still some
not
damage.
as much elixir, there's some skeletons there,
Gotcha. Okay.
Sweet. All right. Well, again, this is the finals, guys. So Brian RT, my man, is up 1-0. Now we're going to game number 2. Let's see if he can increase this lead.
I'm really impressed with Brian RT's Hog Rider play. I think it's been a long time since we've seen a Hog Rider so precise and well placed across a match. In a long time.
You know what's crazy? He considers himself a noob Hog Rider player. Hog Rider is actually not his default deck style. You know, it looks. You could convince me that he's played it for years, but this is actually not his default play. He's also a relatively new Expo player as well. He was a big giant Poison and Minor Inferno player in a lot of the tournament scenes.
Basically, he just started playing the game yesterday.
Funny thing,
He's a brand new player.
Backstab only recently picked up Expo as a counter, or Royal Giants counter holding Expo, so both of them are actually sort of taking their new crafted decks on a walk down the boulevard.
Here we go, playing the Hog Rider deck again. Here comes a big log, but you really, I mean, based on the last match, it really comes to double elixir time when Brian RT can play those Hog Rider lightning log combos that it really gets dangerous. Still, Ice Wizard gets a bunch of swings off.
Right.
Not the worst in the world, but
Backstab, even if he loses again to this Hog Lightning deck, which, you know, it'll be interesting to tie it up, he's actually in a still relatively comfortable position because it's up to Brian RT to lock down a win with his Expo deck
against all the Royal Giants.
All the Royal Giants in the world. And we saw how Backstab played that matchup with expert game plans. Oh no, Ice Wizard. Now there's a good situation for Ice Wizard. He's real good at fighting fire spirits.
Makes sense.
I think he's gonna die here though. Oh no, he's standing
I'm a slow one.
He's standing right out of the range of the tower. He lives for just a little bit longer. No, 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 no.
Oh, man, the noodles.
That,
Those noodles.
I've been watching Walking Dead recently, and that felt like a recreation of a scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
3 undead against 1 wizard.
Yep.
You mean, is it a bat covered in spikes?
Hold on, wait a minute. Spoiler alert. Let's not go any further.
Probably just made some people really mad.
Spoil nothing.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Furnace has to be played defensively.
Oh, it didn't hit the furnace.
Yeah, missed the furnace.
Furnace is actually played far up enough that I don't know if it actually can reach the tower.
Here's the
with
catch
lightning.
with Royal Giant. I understand that Backstab feels like he has to go for it because if you just sit back, you're just going to get lightninged and Hog Ridered out of the game. Royal Giant is really not worth the 6 elixir purely on offense. Kind of like a lot of other cards that we see, cards like, I don't know, Baby Dragon or Skeletons, Fire Spirits. On their own, they're not huge offensive threats. Royal Giant's that way. His stats are not actually great. The value comes in the long range and catching your opponent off guard.
Yeah, that Hog Rider actually fought through the furnace, got a swing, baited out the Skeleton Army drop, and then Brian RT gained a 1 elixir advantage by logging it, and then spent that advantage by just straight lightning the tower with the Musketeer as well.
I think this tower is just out of log range, but I could be wrong here. Let's see how much log this
Find
is.
out.
Oh,
Just that was, could not have been more right.
It was 9. No, it's 9% more than an arrows, and an arrows
Yes.
does a little under 100. So that's a toughie one right there.
There we go, and now we have Backstab 1 game away from being out. So
Yes.
Brian RT is 1 game away from winning, but he has used 1 deck to win twice.
Right, so
he
Hog
has to
Lightning
switch
is
out.
Out of here.
He's
right?
gone. So, like you said, he's gonna be going against. He has to use his Expo deck against 2 Royal Giants. How have we seen players in the past go against an unfavorable matchup using Expos? I know a lot of defensive plays we might be seeing, right? They're playing in the middle sometimes to get that. You call it the leapfrog, the
hog jump?
No, I'm talking about the leapfrog.
Oh, yes,
the
leapfrog for the
Expos.
Expos? Yes. I think that'll be very, very important just because there's no way, really, if Backstab is playing with good focus, that he's going to see the Expo drop and the deploy time is just taking forever to tick up. There's no way that Backstab will be like,
what to do? What to do?
no, not going to drop anything. And then the Expo starts shooting. There's no way that's going to happen. So you need to place your first Expo behind, have Backstab play things into it,
Right.
win the trade, and then play your next Expo.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's see if we can do it.
In only 3 Coronation Day broadcasts, we've seen the finals go both ways.
Yes.
Yesterday, we had a 3-0
Yeah.
sweep as Flash won, and in the first Coronation Day, Ender came back from a 2-0 deficit
Yep.
to win 3 in a row and win. So this can kind of go either way.
That's what's great about this game. Like these guys aren't they're not a resource down. They're not any sort of items down. Like they still have it's again strategy every single new round.
Despite the fact that the Inferno Tower is burning away at the Royal Giant, the Expo still got taken down before it could really do significant damage to anything else, the tower or the furnace.
One of the advantages for Brian RT is that his Expo deck doesn't have Skeleton Army in it, which actually is pretty vulnerable to all the logs that are being played around. So having guards instead, at least they'll survive and do a little bit of damage to that Royal Giant. The key of all Royal Giant decks when you're on offense is to clear out anything in front of that Royal Giant, and if he's at maybe half health or more, he can do a really great amount of damage.
Musketeer makes his way across. Ice Golem will tank from the Mega Minion. And I think that's smart positioning for Brian RT. Here comes the defensive Expo, gonna shoot down the Furnace, and I actually think that that's a good target choice. Expo's not gonna do much damage to the Royal Giant, but to deny further Fire Spirits, I think is really gonna help Brian RT in the long run.
And even a great counter there, that one Elixir Ice Spirit did a great job at soaking those 2 Fire Spirits. When those 2 Fire Spirits hit the tower while the tower is shooting the Royal Giant, you're looking at 500 damage on your tower that you cannot afford to do.
Again, just storing Elixir. I think Brian RT has to try again. He has to try middle Expo again.
Backstab's doing the same thing that he was doing the last time he had to fight an Expo deck, which is be very, very passive. Split your cards as much as possible. Don't give him any sort of big opening. Save the Royal Giant to counter Expos, not as a primary offensive tool.
Tough situation, that left side tower, Backstab is more than happy to just start lightning out. Now that he knows that the Expo is off the field, he plays the Royal Giant in the back, and by the time the next one is positioned, he has cards in place to stop that Expo from targeting right onto the tower.
And I think this shows just how deadly it can be if you, wow, the last second lightning saves the day there. That Mega Minion might get a swing or two, but obviously, oh no! The Inferno Tower, if that can get zapped,
There's the push.
Wow, I didn't realize the Ice Golem could do that. The Ice Golem, what happened there? The Ice Golem displaced the Royal Giant, and of course, anytime a unit gets stunned, frozen, or displaced, it retargets. It pushed the Royal Giant just a square over, and it started changing back to the Inferno Tower. But big help here is that the next Royal Giant can outrange it.
Wow, the Ice Spirit actually freezes up the Mega Minion. Mega Minion actually targeted onto the other Mega Minion because of the log pushback, and it's gonna get a lot of value here. There's a big lightning. And I think we're just one spell away from seeing Backstab start his comeback against Brian RT.
Got to cycle though and not lose in the meantime. Granted, he has over 2,000 health on both towers, so I believe he's safe. But we saw actually yesterday in the game-deciding final game, Flash almost lost to a final push when he was spell cycling.
It's so interesting that no Inferno Tower was played, but I think we're just waiting for the next lightning for the game to finish up.
There it is, the good game coming up from Backstab. He is staying in this, picking up his first victory here in the finals. Coronation day number 2.
Now the interesting thing is Brian RT has actually many opportunities to kind of roll the dice and play an opening Expo and try to see if he can squeeze one Expo in during the time.
Well, and sometimes one, like we've been seeing, is all it takes.
Yeah.
One Expo can
and
do
really, even if it doesn't actually take the tower down, if it gets low enough that you have time to start throwing fireballs and take that tower down, that's actually a very viable way to beat a bad matchup. Right? Sure. So I think that is definitely something that Brian RT has to keep in mind. Start throwing out the Expos early as you can. And
is that taking kind of greedy? Is that a greedy thing to do when you're just trying to like, oh, I'm going to throw this out and hope my opponent doesn't have a match? Because if he does have a match, then you're kind of down there.
Yeah, it's a very good point. For example, if in the opening moments of the game, you get your first 6 Elixir and you throw down that Expo and then your opponent just throws down the Royal Giant in response, as we saw, that Royal Giant is going to survive with 60% health. Then you have maybe 3 Elixirs to stop a Royal Giant. He can drop another 3 Elixir on them, for example, a Mega Minion to stop your counters to the Royal Giant, and you get put into a bad spot.
On a high level, think about this. Siege decks want to win from their side of the board, right? They just sit there. They're not really adept at attacking. They set up something on their side of the board you have to answer, something like an Expo. The Royal Giant sitting very far back, deep into Backstab's side of the board while shooting the Expo, challenges the Expo deck to do something that it can't normally do. Come across the river and kill this big high health thing, because otherwise, your Expo doesn't have a chance.
Racing Fireball versus Lightning, as it seems. And there it is, Royal Giant behind the tower. He knows that there's no way to cycle the cards fast enough before double Elixir.
He could have another one very soon and play it on the left side, I believe, because he had already played the Expo and he played the Ice Golem right after it. Now guards have come out in Mega Minion. He definitely has another Expo, but I guess he's holding it for the Royal Giant to get off the board now.
Yeah. And he has to consider the other cards that he has to deal with as well.
Look at Musketeer. No river can stop her.
That's one of the longest ranges in the game for any ranged attackers. Longer range than Wizard, longer range than Archers. Musketeers shoot very far.
Gets frozen up. Not the best timing, but not bad. Expo again being set up in the center field and hope to see another lightning. There it is. Backstab is happy to just sit there and lightning the Expos down.
Absolutely. I mean, you can kind of see that by keeping that Expo low health, there's never going to be an opportunity for Brian RT to keep that Expo alive long enough to then play a second Expo. And if he ever plays an Expo by the river, eat a Royal Giant, buddy.
It's very tough to position the Expo in a way such that it cannot be taken down by the Royal Giant or the Lightning.
Really good advantage here too is that there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of redundancy in Brian RT's deck in terms of where your spells want to go. You're always going to want to fireball that Mega Minion. You're always going to want to log the guards, and there's really nothing else in there that you're dying to use those spells on. So it makes it really easy for Backstab to sit back and just use the appropriate card at the appropriate time.
Here comes a lock onto the Royal Giant and actually gets frozen up for just a little bit. The Ice Golem is going to die and slow the Royal Giant down again, but still so much damage being put onto the Expo. It's really looking tough for Brian RT right now, and this was very intentional from Backstab. I mean, you bring two Royal Giant decks into the Coronation Day, you're expecting that both of your Royal Giant decks are going to be able to end up closing out the game, and we're seeing the result of Backstab making that decision.
I think this is exactly what Backstab wanted. He wanted to be in the finals against an Expo deck, knowing that that's all it's really going to take for him to take the game is just not lose to an Expo deck with a Royal Giant. That's one of the best matchups, I think, in the metagame.
And that's the only thing right now, again, that Brian RT can use. Like, he has to win with this Expo deck.
Yes. And that's one of the challenges of the double deck format. You have to bring two decks that, you can't bring anything that's too specialized. Anything that's too bad of a matchup. I was really surprised in the first Coronation Day to see so many Expos because that's a very predictable deck. It's powerful when it does its strategy, but it's very straightforward in what it does. It commits a lot of cards to its game plan, and it doesn't adapt super well. And that's what Backstab is taking advantage of here in the fourth Coronation Day. Oh, wow, Fire Spirits clear that up.
Mitigated a lot, but Royal Giant should be able to be played just in time. We'll see. Does not actually eliminate the Skeleton Army, Had to be a combination of both the log and the fireball, but really for the 6-for-6, it's not feasible.
I mean, great play there by, oh no, that Mega Minion got chopped up, no! But yeah, very great play by Backstab. They're knowing to cycle as cheaply as possible in order to get back to his key defensive card.
Yeah, and he's just slowly chipping away.
He's got a little bit more time. That Furnace will buy some time. Once it locks on, oh, great lightning. Now he's got to get another health out though, because that thing could lock onto the tower very soon. Is the log going to come down and clear him out? It is.
It does.
Oh, the lightning though.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough health in that lightning.
Yep, Lightning is going to close out the match, and 2-2. Brian RT is having a really tough time breaking out of this matchup, and I think that Backstab is just going to be happy to continue this trade of terror.
Yeah, there we go. Backstab tying it up now, 2-2 in the finals.
Oh man.
Brian RT, Backstab, they're both one game away from $2,000 and moving on. My question to both of you is this. Now that Brian RT, obviously, he's seen Backstab's decks, right? He's seen the Royal Giants. Do you think, playing so much against him and obviously not coming up as a victor is enough for him to create some sort of strategy, or is it just a bad matchup?
I really wonder if he's also going on tilt, right? You start to get worried. Like we saw this, almost like Marcel started to realize that he just couldn't beat Ender's deck in this rematch. It's really tough. I think, just like we saw with Uzumaki probably shouldn't have lost to the Expo deck that he played earlier, but he made some fatal errors. Backstab is playing very conservatively, not giving his opponent any openings. He ended that game with 2,000 health on both towers.
On both towers, yeah.
There's
Couldn't
just
even
nothing
touch
that
him.
can do. But here's the catch. He's switched to his alternate Royal Giant deck. Doesn't have Furnace, which has been very, very effective. Has Tombstone instead, which, arguably may or may not be better, right? There's also things like, we still got Skeleton Army. Archers are going to be in there, which could be good, but it's going to be basically up to Backstab to feel comfortable enough with the strategy to adapt with this 4-card different version of the deck and still pull out the win against Brian RT.
Here comes the early Expo.
Best Expo you could possibly play. Right here. Oh, and he does have
There's
it.
the answer. Oh, look, and Brian RT knows it, giving that laughing emote.
I think Brian RT right there was trying to win a coin flip. 50-50 chance. I've got Expo, you might not have Royal Giant. I think in that case, Royal Giant might have actually been the 5th card, but Backstab had the wherewithal, had the situational awareness, comfortably play the Tombstone, and then get the Expo right after.
Log will clear out all the chunky units protecting the Royal Giant. It's going to be taken down, but now we're in the card ordering has already been set.
Yeah, they've got their hands. Hey, here's the thing though. I would take a coin flip 50-50 for $2,000 any day.
Absolutely. I mean, don't forget, the second place player is going home with $500 and the respect of the community. So not easy.
Right.
Here's one thing that's critically different and could be the deciding factor in the game. There's no lightning in this deck of backstabs. It's fireball. Now think how many times in the last 2 games lightning has brought Expo so low as to be mostly ineffective. Comparatively, fireball's going to leave a lot of health on those Expos.
Also, I mean, if Brian RT can place them correctly, then Backstab's not going to get that value of hitting both the tower and the Expo, correct? With the fireball?
Actually, well, it depends. You're right, though, lightning has a larger radius. You're right, though, if he plays Expo way up at the river, but as far up on the river as he can, it's at least out of range of fireball. Both.
Yeah, okay.
But of course, that doesn't help you really get by the Royal Giant either.
Sure.
Zap resets the Inferno Tower, but Ice Spear is the thing that really clears the Royal Giant away, and a good defense from Brian RT again.
Brian RT's down, though, by 2 Elixir at this point, which is not where he wants to be, given the already sort of poor matchup here. It's going to allow Backstab to get back up to 10 and invest Elixir in some way, getting another Tombstone down.
Yep. He's just going to chain Tombstones back to back to back because there's really no reason to drop it. It's just good fodder for the Expo.
Christian, you're right. Actually, that's out of fireball range, I believe. But it's so close to the river that it's
we're
within Royal Giant range.
There it is.
And fundamentally, that is also the same issue with lightning, right? If you were going to play the Expo and there's the Ice Spear jump the river.
It's a pretty full health Royal Giant coming back. It forces the Mega Minion out, but with the archers and Mega Minion there around, his Mega Minion gets killed and the Royal Giant locks onto the tower.
Ice Golem taking up some small bits of damage, but yet again, another Tombstone.
And as that famous Don McLean song went, this might be the day that Expo dies.
You're calling it a couple times.
Yeah, that's true.
I called it at the start of the show. With 2 players running double Royal Giant, they could lose, but they probably weren't going to lose to an Expo player. And given how much it's been the most popular deck in the meta so far, I don't know.
It's really interesting because with the double deck format, we know that Brian RT made a choice, right? He said that I only want to play Hog Rider once, and that was by far a very, very effective deck I see. I mean, just the way he played in this tournament, you know?
Big challenge, though, is that second Tombstone came out of Backstabs. It's actually out of the range. It would not block an Expo, so there was a great opening there for an Expo to lock on, and that really close to the King Tower Tombstone would have been worthless. But look at this little skeleton army pushing here on the right side. You can't ignore it. Ooh, I like the far shot. It's outside the range there, and it's going to soak all of those Expo shots. Oh, Psych, or walks out of range.
Well, he knocked him out.
But the log, I think, just came out.
Yeah.
That's right, the log knocked the Royal Giant out, so he had an opening. Zap it to reset the Inferno Tower, or just Fireball.
Takes down the Royal Giant. Yeah, Skeleton Army gets up to that left side tower and does a lot of damage. That was actually dangerously close. If Backstab had not played the archers when he did, could have actually retargeted onto the tower.
Well, Royal Giant is making a case today.
Yeah.
That's
You have an Expo? Yeah, okay.
Here's my Royal Giant.
And honestly, Royal Giant has not been seen in serious tournament play for a very, very long time. When it first got released, it was strong, but most of its strength in the game has actually been on the ladder where you could over-level it. You could have a level 10, a level 11, level 12 Royal Giant, and those were the really effective ones on the ladder. But the meta has evolved, and even though Royal Giant is weaker than its previous forms, when everyone's running Expo, the Royal Giant is king.
Good for him.
Yeah.
He's gonna come back.
Gets taken down
I'm loving
again.
it.
Mega Minion coming across, doing what it can against the Royal Giant, but even when you kill this Royal Giant, you are still not getting damage on the tower. And Brian RT is trying to play his Expo the instant that the Royal Giant dies.
Let's not count it out yet, though. There's only a minute 15 left in the game, and both of those towers are kind of healthy.
Yeah.
Brian RT could arguably play for a draw here and try to get another shot at that 50-50 coin flip with the opening Expo.
That's absolutely true. And again, we do have draw rules, and if we do get into that, we will let you guys know. But I think it's a great point. If he does get that draw, and next time he can win that 50-50, this could be a completely different game.
Plays the crossbow defensively to try to stop the Royal Giant from doing very much damage. Actually going for the fireball, and that's definitely not what you want to do if you're trying to stall out this game.
Right, yeah.
That log takes down the skeletons as well as a tombstone.
I don't know. I'm not exactly. Oh, the log already came out, so the skeleton army could be really effective because the Inferno Tower has nothing to lock onto.
Oh, no.
Might be the fatal error. There's the Ice Golem to stop a little bit, but the
Royal
Royal
Giant
Giant
gets
is
rolled off.
The Royal Giant is
He's got a lot of health.
shooting away at that left side tower.
2, another Royal Giant comes up. He's
25
going for the
seconds
win
away.
here. 23 seconds until a draw, a fatal draw that he doesn't want to lose. Backstab takes the game.
Royal Giant coming through strong for Backstab. He is our
Backstab,
winner.
Backstab.
Taking home $2,000 in that trip to move on. Brian RT,
I'm so
a
happy.
well-fought battle, but just couldn't pull it out against those Royal Giants.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm happy for Royal Giant. I'm happy for Backstab.
It's a great day.
Backstab is a very consistent, very strong player. Reads the metagame very well. He's another streamer and a member of a big clan. I am happy to raise him up as one of our 16 Arena Battle Invitationals. And of course, my favorite card, the Royal Giant.
It's the best day.
One more time.
Now, here's the thing too. What I love is talking about how these tournaments again are so back to back that when someone sees a meta, they're gonna be able to be like, oh, if that's what everyone's playing, tomorrow I can just bring this deck and do well. Backstab showing that's exactly what he did there. Let's go ahead and go into a replay now of that last finals battle. Take a look at Backstab's slow climb to victory. Again, a comeback. Being down
Royal
2 games.
Giant is just the perfect card to use based on the amount of Expo decks that were being played in the Coronation days. And really, when you get to the competitive level of Clash Royale that Rumham and I have been experienced with, we are at the forefront of the meta, right? We are where the meta changes.
Yeah.
And players like Backstab are the ones that cause the change to happen because they bring the fight to you, right? They're not gonna say, hey, man, I don't like Royal Giant as a card. They don't say any of that stuff. They say, hey, what is gonna win for me?
Absolutely.
Right?
Okay.
I'm gonna make you have to learn how to play this game better.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
I'm gonna hold these crossbow players honest, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did. Brought 2 Royal Giant decks, punished Brian RT for playing even just 1.
I love the idea of making these guys are meta makers.
And that's so true. I mean, we saw that with the Super Magical Cup. You would see a deck win the Super Magical Cup, and then the next week, the ladder would be filled with that deck. We've already started to see a little bit of a rise in Royal Giant because of the Expo decks, and I think this solidified it. But more than just deck choice, Backstab was an incredibly smart technical player. You can absolutely lose to Royal Giant or to Expo decks with a Royal Giant simply by being too aggressive with your Royal Giant, getting it killed on offense, and then not having it in hand with an Expo came down. The smartest thing that Backstab did, split his skeleton army, play tombstones, play furnaces, never actually commit the Royal Giant until those Expos were down.
All right, well, there he goes. Let's go ahead and pull the bracket for today so we can just do a quick recap. Rumham, Rainey, walk us through the story that was the Clash Royale North American Open number 4.
Brian RT, the second place finisher, defeats Santi, which is a big name, then goes on to defeat Mango, who had just defeated Marcel P, and then goes on to face Backstab, and unfortunately is faced with a big challenge of having to push through Royal Giant. And I really think that Brian RT, if he's gonna come back to these tournaments, should probably think about developing a deck that is not Expo based. I mean, he's shown that his Hog Rider is very skillful, but how many different Hog Lightning decks can you make while abiding to the double deck format?
So smart, but it just didn't pull out in the end. Okay. Big question of the night. Is Expo dead?
Oh.
I'm gonna actually say no. I think Expo is still a very strong, linear, proactive strategy. It just does one thing, but it might be the strongest deck in the entire format when it's doing its thing. If you were to bring double Royal Giant and there's not a lot of Expos in next week's top 8, you could totally get punked out by Hog. I mean, look, we saw Backstab did not look like he was gonna win this against a Hog Lightning deck. Nope. Hog Lightning's a very versatile, well-rounded deck. Giant Bowler, very versatile, well-rounded. Royal Giant is gonna be there to keep the Expos in check. Good for him, but it's gonna be sort of a week-by-week call.
All right.
Okay. Well, not only does Backstab take home $2,000 and a chance to move on to the crown duels, but his name will be remembered throughout Clash history.
That is right.
And we have a new clan to join the ranks
Hey!
of the
Oh yeah,
Hey!
new clan, new letter. So go to Clash Royale Open and be the next Backstab.
Yeah, ClashRoyaleOpen.com. That's where you guys can sign up again. We have many more of these Coronation days to come. The next one is happening on Sunday, the 30th, the day before Halloween. And guess what card's going to be available during that day? Graveyard! That is right. I'm so excited. I hope we see it. I'm sure.
Comes out.
I'm sure we're going to see it. Yeah.
Like an hour or two. It's real soon.
After this,
go
guys,
use it.
just look on your phones and just dump all the monies and just get all the legendary cards that you guys can. Because if you have a graveyard, you have a place in my heart.
How many graveyard decks are going to be in Sunday's top 8?
I hope there's going to be 8 of them.
I'm going to say 3.
Yeah,
I'll say 3.
Okay, 3 people running graveyard.
I think it's really strong, but it's hard to get a new card. Actually, it took me a long time to get Lumberjack, took me a long time to get
That's
Inferno
true.
Dragon.
That's true.
But the people who have it, I think, are going to be very happy with it.
They
That
might just
card
have it in
is
one of theirs. Like, I'm going to
strong.
show this off, kind of like, haha, I got it, and you guys don't. All right, guys. Well, again, that is going to do it. Congratulations to Backstab for being a B member and joining our Coronation Day champions. And that is all that we have for you guys here. So thank you so much for joining us on behalf of everyone here at the official Supercell Clash Royale North American Open broadcast out of NGE Studios. That is Rum, Ham, and Raining.
I'm Ella.
And I'm Christian.
Have a most ridiculous night.
Good night.
I'm so glad that my pick.
Woo, Backstab.
What a great thing.
It's only because you got the pick first.